Good evening, very warm welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show and our Monday night roundup of all things West Yorkshire and beyond in the world of football. I'm Chris Bell, delighted to say, joined as ever by our pretty much full house tonight of Stephen Brown, Jason Booker, Dave Foy, Lewis Sales, Stephen Downs, Gareth Walker. And I'm delighted to say, to join us at the start of the show, is Leeds United fan and Fantasy Premier League expert Tom Carnduff. How are we all for a start? Are we all well?
Very good.
Superb, sir.
2 thumbs up from Tom. 2 thumbs up after a 3-3 draw at the weekend.
Yeah, if anything, it should be 3 of us kind of being miserable, and everyone else seemed to have won this weekend. But it was a fun game, and that's all that matters, isn't it? At the end of the day,
I'm miserable.
Oh well,
No new there, Brown.
Well, I think it was a wonderful opening day myself.
Actually, across the EFL, it was a very entertaining and very good opening day. But it actually,
You played well. Pompey played really well, didn't they?
Pompey were excellent.
Leeds United were, in fact, I think, the only West Yorkshire side in the top 7 divisions of English football not to win as a West Yorkshire club this weekend.
Yeah,
but we'll
always letting the side down.
We'll come on to that a little bit later. I want to start with the fact that, as you can see, going across the bottom of the screen at the moment is the code to join our West Yorkshire Football Show Fantasy Premier League. And Tom, it's a bit of a fantasy Premier League expert for Sporting Life. I think it's you that they come to for everything, isn't it, as regards fantasy football and the know-how.
I hope so. Yes.
What can we look forward to in 24-25? Because there's been a couple of changes from last year's game. I know, for example, you can pile up more transfers for a start, and then something like a mystery chip around January time.
Yeah, they kind of started teasing this big, huge change to the game around the time the Euros fantasy was really getting quite popular in the summer, and a lot of speculation. This is going to be all different point scoring. This is going to happen. It basically is what you've said. The big things are you can now roll up to 5 free transfers, so effectively a mini wild card there if you're not into making your transfers, and a mystery chip, which is a mystery, so we don't know much about it.
We literally know nothing.
For January time is when that one comes out. So my theory would be it's probably going to be something quite significant to really boost gaps between, close gaps between leagues and all stuff like that if it's coming in January. So, yeah, they basically, as you said, they're the 2 kind of main changes to expect this year. Obviously, some big price moves as well that have made things difficult. But, yeah, more intriguing looking, I think it's fair to say, this year.
First things first, lads. Have we all signed up to our fantasy league? And I feel like Jay might be doing it now, but judging by looking at his screen. But are we all signed up?
Yeah.
No, but I will be. But I would like to ask. I would like to ask Tom a question. Tom, when it gets to January, and I ultimately am bottom of the league because I've not logged in to change my transfers, could I pay you a little bit of money to win the league from me? That would be fantastic, mate.
Yeah, we can revisit that in January. Do a January deal of our own, no issue.
Yeah, little last day deal. Yeah, is all right.
Maybe this will be the mystery chip, like one of the extra lifelines on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Like, Tom.
The mystery will be for when Tom logs into my account and he sees that the guy's already left to go to like Italian B team or something.
There might be some people in this podcast, Andy, that might suggest that Tom's a better substitute for yourself. So just be careful what you wish for, sir.
Wow. All right, Lou.
Shots fired.
I
didn't say that came from my mouth. Just suggesting what people may be thinking.
You're the one that spoke it, pal.
Tom, in terms of the price changes, like what's caught your eye in terms of the expected ones and the ones that are, perhaps still cheaper than you would have expected having good seasons last season? Who's overpriced in your opinion? Give us a bit of a rundown of the ones that might have caught your eye.
Yeah, I think the big one, Haaland, you've got to say, having your 15 million, that's a huge step up. And I think it's needed, though, because it makes you think twice about obviously getting him in and hopefully it drags people away from kind of just auto-captaining him all the time. And it seems to have worked. 45% of teams at the moment have Haaland. So
I'm sure if we talked about this, I think, at the start of last season, and the figure going into the opening weekend for Haaland was something ridiculous. It was like 89,
Yeah.
90%, something daft. So it's 45 now. That's a massive reduction in those going for Haaland.
I think they've been quite clever on the pricing as well of strikers, because just as I pull up the list now, the fact that Haaland is 15 million, you can effectively get, there's only 4 strikers who are priced above 7.5 million. So they are kind of saying you can have Haaland, or you can have 2 players like Tony, Mateta, Solanke, who's now at Tottenham. It's kind of the choice that you've got to make. So that's quite a good move, a positive move, and it takes that boredom a bit out of it, that you just knew everyone was going to captain Haaland and there's no risk that comes with it. Cole Palmer's the other big one as well. I knew we were expecting a change. I don't think we expected him to double in price. Massively underpriced last season, of course, being a Man City player at the start before he then went to Chelsea, scored loads of goals, took loads of penalties. And again, I think he is one of the most popular or the most popular selected midfielder on the game. For me,
10.5 million and a 43.4% selection rate as it stands.
The novelty of him was he was so cheap last season, wasn't it? And now it's okay. Nobody's saying he's not an elite player, but it's again that's making you think twice of doing it. So in terms of the price changes that I mentioned, there are a couple of players, but they have gone for the most popular players or players that people are always going to look to. Trent being another up at 7 million. It's enough to kind of make people think twice. And I think across the leagues, maybe towards kind of the top end, really serious players, there'll kind of be a few molds that they're all following. But you're going to see such a variety of teams this year, which ultimately is going to make it better, hopefully more enjoyable. And it means that we don't just give up after week 1 because it all gets a bit too tedious.
Like me.
I mean, to be fair, Steve, it's not just you. I think I know so many people are like, oh yeah, after about week 4, I forget to log in, I give up, I'm already bottom of the league and can't be bothered. It's like
we gave up in the Euros after about 3 games, though, didn't we? 3 games. I was like,
I didn't. To be fair, I enjoyed the Euros one just because I wasn't bottom of the league. So it's first time that's happened for a few years, to be honest.
And it makes me feel a load better that I actually continued and still didn't win while you guys gave up. Cheers, guys.
Well, some would say, Lou, but you're easy to be substituted in this podcast.
To be fair, I think after the group stage of the Euros, I genuinely did forget to make any more changes, and I think I ended up accidentally winning it. Are we still expecting Pep Guardiola to be the worst thing to happen to Fantasy Premier League with his Pep roulette of players?
Oh, God, yeah. I'm convinced. I'm absolutely convinced that he is on the game somewhere and he's aware of and he follows everyone's content that they do on FPL. And then he goes, you know what? It makes no odds to us. I'm just going to take this player out because it'll probably annoy a lot of people. It can't be a coincidence that this happens all the time. Man City, an interesting one this year. We talked about Haaland there. Vardiol's had a big boost as well to 6 million in defence. I think really there's nobody particularly that looks, should we say, safe, bar Rodri, 6.5. Scored more goals last year, took more shots. So if you kind of want the safe Man City option, probably Rodri at 6.5 in midfield. Haaland, even though he's 15 million and there's injury issues, the fact that Julian Alvarez is now gone doesn't look like they're going to replace him. Basically means he's just absolutely nailed on every single week. That's kind of there. And Phil Foden, 9.5 as well. It is probably where you're going to be the most kind of safest with Man City options. But again, it is that you can't really go maximum on him, not from a price perspective, just because there's the roulette element involved. That said, City don't make many subs. So if you don't have a player who starts on City, the chances are they probably don't come on either because Pep doesn't really make too many subs unless he's forced to do so. So, yeah, I kind of go with 1 or 2 maybe maximum and then kind of look elsewhere for probably more stability. And at least then, you know, with big price players, they're going to play week in, week out.
I am quite reassured there because Guardiola and Foden I've put in. Haaland,
Yeah.
I haven't, to be fair. And one of the players I have put in that striking role, who I think is quite looking like a bit of a bargain, Ivan Toney, 7.5 mil. Now, obviously, for the last 6 months, there's been so much talk about, is he going to go to Arsenal? Is he going to go to Man United? He's still at Brentford with, 3 weeks of the window or so still to go. I mean, for a start, where do you see him being come, the end of the transfer window? And 2, 7.5 mil, even if he stays at Brentford, is that a bargain?
Yeah, I suppose in terms of FPL terms, right? He's been popular for a while when he's been available. I think I just can't see him going at the moment in terms of where the options are. I know there was talk of a Saudi Arabia move this week, which I think he's kind of thinking about, but ultimately there's just very limited options of places for him to go. 7.5 is decent. It's kind of the bulk of kind of your top end strikers. Obviously, Solanke, particularly now at Tottenham in a very attack minded team, is a really solid pick in that one. Jean-Philippe Mateta as well, 13 goals in 13 games after Glasner was appointed last season. He was in absolutely electric form at 7.5. Yeah, I mean, Tony's basically guaranteed to start for Brentford when he's available because the Igor Julio, who they signed, who could potentially be his replacement, is injured anyway and out for a few months. So Tony, yeah, you're kind of safe on that. In terms of playing, really, that if he's available, they're going to put him in. But there are quite a few options at that 7.5. The players I mentioned there, Solanke, Mateta as well, who 7.5% ownership. That's kind of into differential territory on strikers. But when you're making your team, sometimes it pays just not to overthink it and just go for as many of the kind of big hitters, safer options that you can, and then maybe have a couple of slots where you can play around a little bit with it.
Doesn't matter anybody else, but for me, the hardest part when it comes to picking, usually because I leave the budget to the last, is for that back line, the defence. And obviously, you mentioned Trent being 7, Guardiola is 6 and looks popular. Is it defence usually where everyone's looking for the bargains? Just thinking last season for Alfie Doughty at Luton, who was obviously listed as a defender, but actually was playing a much more advanced role. Is there any like that in around that 4.5 mil mark that you expect to do surprisingly well in 24-25?
Yeah, I mean, defenders is always kind of the way to go. Stuart Dallas was, I think, the last real FPL hero in the first season. Leeds were in the Prem because he was everywhere, but kind of the full-back position we thought he would be. There are a couple of midfielders that I can mention afterwards that maybe you can make some savings on. The one that everyone's now kind of cottoned onto a little bit, and having followed Brighton's pre-season tour of Japan, at 4 million for Brighton is Valentin Barco, left-back.
The little ginger kid.
Yeah. Estepinan's injured. And not only was he playing, he was very advanced, joined the attack a lot and took all their set pieces when they were in Japan. So if he's starting, there's a good chance here that not only will he be starting in a team that can't really place, but they attack a lot, he'll be taking set pieces. Bumping up a little bit, but 5 million, mentioned Palace, but Daniel Munoz, right wing back, absolutely kind of flying forward, joined last January, got 4 assists after joining 5 clean sheets as well. So Palace should be all right this season. You've got a bit of an attacking threat there. And Ezri Konsa, again, is another popular option. But for Villa, who, should be in and around the top 4 picture, centre-back, shifts across to right-back as well, so can get forward, is another player who, for 4.5 million of all the options that are out there, are probably your safest in terms of getting some playing time. So they're kind of the players that I'm looking at the moment. And it's kind of your 4.5 millions, you bit more of your kind of gamble territory. I mean, Mark Gahey, if he goes to Newcastle, you'll have a starting Newcastle centre-back defender there that you can kind of work with. But yeah, I think a lot of people go to it. And Barco is someone who is worth looking at. 4 million. If he doesn't end up playing as much as you can, it doesn't matter. He can take the final kind of sub slot on the bench. So yeah, they're kind of the names that I'm looking at to save a bit of money in defence.
What's Wharton, Tom, for Palace?
Adam Wharton is... Where is Crystal Palace? I'll make some noise so it looks like I'm looking, which I am. Wharton, 5 million in midfield.
That's a bit of a bargain, really, because I mean he'll probably play every game for Palace, I would have thought.
Yeah, kind of the 5 million. I think it's wise to have at least one midfielder priced at 5 million, because it then gives you so much budget to get more big hitters in. 5 million Wharton, again, the approach is you can go for players that are going to play every single week. Adam Wharton was one that mentioned there. Or there are a couple of names that are potentially worth siding with. Fabio Carvalho's one, just moved to Brentford, should fit in really well in their system, should play quite a lot. Because he was at Liverpool, he's been priced up at 5 million. Obviously wasn't expected to play much at Liverpool. That hasn't been the case. There are a few kind of others that I had down. Buonanotte at Brighton has since moved to Leicester. The way Leicester are setting up at the moment, should play a lot of minutes in attack. So there are kind of a couple of options dropped around there. The 5 million, and if you go up to 5.5 million, Emil Smith-Rowe, who has since gone to Fulham, again, another Arsenal player that was underpriced. It's definitely worth looking towards that range to kind of make a few savings. And the other one I will chuck out as well at Brighton, Yankubu Minte, who winger, had a really good season in the Netherlands, has joined them from Newcastle. He's at 5.5 million as a midfielder and has had a really good pre-season. So it's well worth looking towards kind of one of those 4 or 5 players because it just frees up so much budget to use elsewhere.
Tom, have you joined our league yet?
I was in it last year, I think, wasn't I?
Yeah, I think you were, to be fair, so it
year,
should renew, but
hopefully we'll
if not, I'll definitely get back in it.
What I'll also just whilst we before we finish on that is if for any reason you can't get the code to work, there is a join link which I have pinned to the top of the X page. Is the join link to join the league, so you can do so on that as well as using the code below. Sorry, Brownie.
Good stuff. Tom, we can't let you go before chatting a bit of Leeds United. A bonkers opening day game. I think after 10 minutes, we thought it was going to be a piece of cake. Didn't quite turn out that way. What were your thoughts on the game generally?
I mean, it was fun, wasn't it? I mean, football's largely terrible anyway, so that was quite fun to be a game that was...
Sorry, Jay, this is how Leeds fans should react.
Yes.
That, not losing the mind after the first day of the season.
I mean, I agree on that. I think there is a happy medium to that, however, because I like to analyse the game and,
Tom was clearly happy with the point, which is nice.
I don't think he was.
It's one of these where, the outcome's annoying, right? But I think fundamentally, it's not getting carried away after one game. I think we've seen it across the weekend. There are a number of teams who were expecting to do well who haven't then got the result that they would have wanted. If Leeds play like they did in terms of attack and the amount of chances they created as they did on Saturday, they will win about 30-odd games this season. That's just the way it is, that the attack is so stacked, created so many chances. They hit the crossbar 3 times in the opening 6 minutes, wasn't it? And it's like, you could tell at that point, as soon as Portsmouth went 2-1 up, it was like, obviously this was going to happen. There's so much creativity in that team. There's still names to come in and kind of reinforcements to come. It's just one of those annoying games that you get in every single season. Annoyingly, it came on opening day. And a bizarre one, from being we've lost in the 92nd minute to then looking at the 97th and going, oh my God, have we not won the game? It's just that kind of bizarre bit there. Enough was created, kind of last-ditch defending of Portsmouth and the keeper coming up big when he had to. It's all those factors. It happens. I think there's no need for Leeds to kind of get carried away, too worried after one game, because the performance largely was really, really positive. You just don't always get the result, and that's just how it goes.
What business do they need to do before the transfer window closes, do you think? Yeah,
I think it's clear that it's centre mid, obviously the Somerville replacement and the full-back depth. Daniel Farke said it so many times. And anyone you speak to, you can't get names out of, but it's very clear that something will happen in those positions. Otherwise, it wouldn't be spoken about so publicly. So it's clearly that, particularly out wide, when you look at the Borough game on Wednesday, where Farke would probably like to rotate a bit, which of course he will. But out wide, for that depth of Somerville replacement and beyond that, you can't really not play James and Nonto because there's nobody else there at the moment to do so. So, exactly what's been said. They desperately need to replace Somerville and replace him with quality and just provide that bit of depth. And then beyond that, it's a really solid side. It's a really solid squad, and one that, were installed by the bookmakers as title favourites. And if they get going, it's hard to disagree.
Just before we let you go, final question. It's a tough week ahead, Middlesbrough in the Cup, and then a trip to West Brom, and then Sheffield Wednesday a week on Friday. If those games don't go particularly well, how much pressure is Farke under, do you think, already?
Yeah, I think it's a case of you kind of got to get to the end of the transfer window, which is frustrating because the thing that cost Leeds last season was the fact that they missed out the start of the season through a carryover of previous ownership. If it doesn't, it's annoying, but I don't think they'll be in a bad position. It's all kind of on performances and stuff like that. And if they play like they did on Saturday, results don't come their way. That's just how it is, right? That's unfortunately, you've usually done enough to win the games, but it isn't the case. I don't think there'll be pressure. They're clearly building the entire project around him. I think by the time they play Sheffield Wednesday, there will be new faces in the building that he can work with. It's a tough start. I think it will just look worse by the fact they didn't win the expected game against Portsmouth. Middlesbrough's a cup game, which Farke likes to use for rotation anyway. And it's West Brom away, Sheffield Wednesday away. They are incredibly tricky games. It's just unfortunately they've come right at the start back to back. So I don't think there'll be too much panic. There won't be too much panic because it's the cliche long season ahead. There's 43 games to play after that. Plenty of points still to pick up.
Good stuff. Tom, thank you very much for joining us this evening, mate.
Get you back on for deadline day, yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
Back in the dark.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, thanks,
Jason,
mate.
Cheers, Tom, sensible as always in his opinion. Obviously, we did a lengthy match review for the game yesterday. So if you've not seen that, Leeds fans watching on, please do check out mine and Jason's match review from yesterday. 24 hours on from our match review, Jason, how you feeling about it all? I'm kind of, I don't know. I've got some nagging doubts about Farke. I'm not going to lie. Nothing's going to really change my mind on that. And I'm a little bit worried about the transfer inactivity. I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of getting a bit frustrated now. It's 12th of August. Let's do something quickly. I think we're at that stage now. I mean, when you look at the transfer business we've done, where's the marquee signing? Where's the star signing? Where's the kind of, Leeds mean business here? I don't think we've seen that yet. And I'm kind of scratching my head going, hang on. We sold Archie Gray for 40 million. We've made another 25 million from Somerville. Let's look like we want to do business here.
Yeah.
I may have spiraled a little bit, as you can tell from
no. It's fair. I think, look, I still think in the football world, there's a long time to go in this transfer window yet. And I don't think we're in a position where we need to look or act desperate. And I would argue that we've already kind of crossed over into that line a little bit in the Raksaki £15 million bid. I think the 49ers have panicked a little bit and have become a little bit reactionary to what's gone on with Johnny Rowe and Raksaki's loan. Clearly, Raksaki was the number one target, I would say. Now that we're prepared to put 15 million on the table for him, I think that was the number one target. The money's there, mate. But this squad, I don't think right now is in the situation where we need to be desperate. We need to get the right players for the right money. We've both been around where this club has spent too much. We've both seen what financial mismanagement can do. And I'm not saying that the 49ers are going to be doing that because they're not, but what it could do is put us in a world of pain with points deductions and whatnot. And, the world in which we're in, if we don't go up at the end of the season, if we have overspent again, would be much worse than what it's just been this summer. So I'm not too keen on being gung-ho with a signing just for the sake of it. I want to get the right player. I do think we need transfers, but I don't think it's as desperate as what some people are making out. This squad is still stacked. It's still bloated. If we were to cut the window off today and not lose anybody, but not gain anybody, I won't be too upset. It does mean that we're keeping Willing onto. It does mean that we're keeping Max Verby. It does mean that we're keeping Jorginho Ruta. And that's, for me, is as important as getting another shiny new toy. You know what I mean? I really think that we desperately need a number 8, an out-and-out box-to-box midfielder.
One thing I don't get, though, you look at Callum O'Hare, and he's that number 10, this coveted position that Leeds have had for a while. I know it's not on the priority list at the moment, but, look at him and the performance he put in for Sheffield United the other night. I'm thinking, why didn't we take a gamble on that and just stack our squad and just get someone of that quality in that position on a free? I just don't understand why not do that business. I mean, the left back, what's the lad's name at left back? £3 million. £3 million they signed him for. Firpo's got 1 year left on his contract. He's injury prone. Window closes. Firpo gets injured the next game. You're playing non-conventional left backs, and your left back.
Okay.
I'm starting to get a bit like, let's, come on.
It's hard to argue on Callum O'Brien, but what I will say is that it's not just as simple as he was available. He could have gone to Sheffield United or Leeds, and Leeds decided not to come in. Maybe we did. Maybe we did, and maybe Sheffield United just were like, oh, we're not letting him go there. Here's another 10 grand a week. Like, it could have been the conversations that go on in behind football clubs is very different to what we kind of picture it to be. It seems obvious on the face of it. Ryan's put there, he's too injury prone. He is very injury prone. Maybe we just made the decision. Look, we've got Brendan Aronson who is very similar-ish to a Callum O'Hare. He's not the profile that we want. He's not worth spending X amount per week on wages, given the injury risk attached to him. He's not right for us. I think we were in for Harrison Burrows, but maybe we came to the party too late. Again, are you going to want... Harrison Burrows went straight into the Sheffield United lineup and he will play there all season. He isn't going to play over Junior Firpo if Junior Firpo stays. He's just not. So then how do you sell that project to him? You have to sit on the bench for 12 months. Well, I can play every week at Sheffield United. We've just come down from the Premier League. So it's not... I just don't think it's quite as black and white as, it'd have been a good signing, so we should have made it. You know what I mean? So I get it, and I'm not saying that your reservations, your worries are not completely, viable, fair. But I want to see us sign the right players. Right now, we're in a desperate need of a centre midfielder. Rothwell, if he's not going to be the out-and-out starter, and he's going to go with Gruev and Ampadu on the regular, I think we need another profile in there. I'm watching. Sheffield Wednesday the other day, Dele Basheru, I think he's still there now. That kind of profile would be good. But
by the way, Sheffield Wednesday 4-0. I mean,
Plymouth.
Plymouth. I know, but I'm like,
I've seen Plymouth fans saying it's the worst performance they've seen in the last 5 years, in both relegation from Championship and in League One.
Plymouth couldn't even get a name on the back of the shirt right. Never mind.
Yeah, they're a mess.
Match, so.
They're a mess.
To be fair, boys, if you sack Farker in the first 6 weeks, Rooney probably will become available. So you're
I can't imagine any Championship club wanting to go anywhere near him after this. It's going to go south. Anyway, let's not waste time talking about Plymouth. I wanted to just mention this quickly, right? And I know I kind of shared that we're going to bring this up during the in the WhatsApp group beforehand, right? We can talk about the penalty decision. Was it 1-8? I'm not going to go there with that in this show because we ain't got the time.
All right, me and Downsy will.
What I do have an issue with the other day was the officiating in general, right? And I put together, or somebody put together, and I've now stole it. Ball in play statistics from the Championship games at the weekend, right? So Cardiff and Sunderland was the highest game where the ball was in play, right? At 58 minutes of 97, which is ridiculous to start with. And that was the game with the highest statistic for ball in play, right? I know it just seems like a regular occurrence, but this is what I'm talking about. Guess the game in which the ball was in play the least from the weekend.
Jay, that didn't stop you winning the game, mate.
Listen. No. It did. Right?
What? So sorry, the ball being in play.
Because if it's not in play,
you hit the bar 3 times, give away a penalty, which was a penalty.
Listen,
and couldn't. Aronson couldn't finish his dinner.
This is my time to talk, right? Okay, just chill, right? So obviously, Leeds United versus Portsmouth was the game in which the ball was in play the least amount of times at 47 minutes. Not only that, but the match time of the Leeds United game was the highest out of all the games. So we had the most play time and the least ball in play time. Make that make sense, right? 101 minutes the game went on in total for both added times of both halves. And we had the ball in play for 47 minutes. The ball was out of play with Portsmouth goal kicks for a full 5 minutes. A full 5 minutes. Downsy, I'm gonna make the point land, right? We have
make
seen
it land all you want, but it's a
we
crap
have seen
point.
this, and Brownie will confess to this, right? We have seen this now for the whole of last season and the beginning of this season. Teams come and set up in a way and play the referees, play the officials, win free kicks, keep the ball out of play, waste time, disrupt the flow of the game in such a way that it hampers the way that we try and play football, right? And I get that, and that's fine. I understand that they are allowed to play the game in whichever way they want. They have to equal. We discussed this. We discussed this when we played Huddersfield last season. Downsy, please, please.
Sorry.
No. Let me finish. So we discussed this when we played Huddersfield at town last season, and we said that teams like that have to equalise the odds of the skill set. I get it. I 100% get it. But it's the official's job to make sure that that doesn't become an unfair advantage. Towler, the centre-back, committed 5 yellow card-worthy fouls in the first half alone. He got booked in the 83rd minute. This kind of thing makes a difference to these games, right? And I'm honestly sick of what 47 minutes the ball was in play, guys. You know, people are paying the ticket prices to watch a game of football, not for it to be out of play. Yeah, I think it's an absolute joke. And I know I've gone on a tangent, Brownie, and you can carry on bringing the points now. The game was obviously what it was, and Tom's absolutely spot on that it was very, very entertaining, and it was a great game. And it is only one game. We shouldn't lose our heads over it, right? And there was chances to win it, etc., etc. That's fine. But I am so tired of watching the same game and the officials allowing it to happen. And I mean, again, if you guys want to disagree with it, Chris and Downsy on this, you are not watching the game. You are not
what
watching
I will say.
We're watching. You're just not.
I did watch the game.
Hang on. But this is what I will say, though, is this is like... this is the little bubble, though, that certain clubs fans find themselves in.
Yeah.
Because this isn't a Leeds United special thing. Clubs don't just go to Elland Road and shut up shop and waste time. It happens with Premier League clubs that go and visit.
Does that make it okay?
Hang on.
Does that make it okay, Chris?
Well, yes, it's part of the game.
No,
I hate to say it. It's part of the game.
All right, okay.
Like,
So
hang on, Jay. You said your bit. Hang on. Like, I'm not being funny, but any smaller team, newly promoted team, going to a bigger team, you take a new promoted Prem side like Ipswich when they'll go to Newcastle or City or United. It happens, and it's the same at that level as it is as Wealdstone going to Chesterfield. It happens. I hate to say it, mate, but it isn't just that, this happens at Elland Road all the time. It might do, because lesser sides or smaller clubs are going to Leeds United. It will be the same when clubs go to Sheffield United. It will be the same when clubs go to Blackburn. It will be, you know what I mean? Away sides do it. They shithouse their way through games. That's how they get points a lot of the time. I'm not entirely saying it's right, but what I am saying is it is just part of the game. Now, I appreciate it's the officials' job to improve that, and this is why, go back to the Qatar World Cup, we ended up with, 15 minutes of added time on games because they were trying to balance that out. You know, if time has been wasted, then it was added on. I think a bit of a difference now is that in most cases, that stopped completely at league level, but it's not just that it happens to Leeds. It does happen to... No, I know. But it's just the way that the point is made that it just feels like it's all these little teams going to Leeds, and it doesn't. It happens to teams going to Lincoln for a point or whatever. Like, and New will be able to say the same about the clubs going to St James's Park and say for Gaz with Anfield. And I mean, I would say Valley Parade, but usually you can just get a win there anyway.
It genuinely happens at Valley Parade as well. It genuinely does, and has done since we've been in League Two.
I am totally and utterly unconscious of that. I recognise the fact that it happens everywhere. One, I don't think it should. I think the officials have to do a better job of managing that. I'm not saying eradicate it completely, and I'm not even saying as a team that has that deficiency. You know, if we were playing Man City, I would want my team to do it as well, but I would also expect the officials to properly officiate the game. Guys, for the ball to be in play for 47 minutes out of 101 is insane.
It is really poor. Sorry. By the way, Zach has killed me. Zach has killed me. Good job. It wasn't in play for longer, or Leeds might have conceded 5.
Brownie, bring me back on a point. Bring me back.
Hang on. Can I just say something, right? So I agree that it's poor, Jay. That's one thing that I can agree with you with. But what I would say is you win a football game or you get a point like what Pompey did in any way, which way you can, right? And I know for a fact I've spoken to a few Portsmouth fans like over the weekend, and they were absolutely delighted to get away with a point at Leeds. They were unbelievably happy, right? So for the end of the day, for them, if that point saves them at the end of the season, they're not going to complain that the ball was in play for 47 minutes. Yes, as a fan,
but there needs to be a fair middle ground to that, Downsy, because the facts are is the game should operate in an environment which is fair to both teams. And I understand a little bit of shithousing, I understand a little bit of time wasting, but once it's 5 minutes,
what you're saying is
goalkeeper had the ball,
and I agree with that.
5 minutes for goal kicks.
100%. And Lee Nichols did it last season, all season, and got booked for it so many times. It was like, yeah, and that's fine. But the other point that I can't agree with you on is when you said Towler should have been booked like 5 times in the first 20 minutes. That's in your opinion. That's not in the referee's opinion. That's not in Portsmouth fans' opinion. That's in your own opinion.
No, it's in the rules' opinion.
It's not though. It's not because otherwise he'd have been booked 5 times, wouldn't he? Or he'd have been booked twice and sent it off.
That's my point, Downs. The officials weren't doing the jobs correctly.
Yeah, but that's in. Yeah, but
it's not an opinion. Clearly, it's not an opinion. It's a fact.
A foul is an opinion.
A foul is a yellow card.
Yeah, but a foul is an opinion because the penalty decision. I know we're not going to go on to it, but in your opinion, it wasn't a penalty. And in mine and Chris's, we fervently believed it was a penalty. That's an opinion. A foul is an opinion. It's not black and white.
All right. So why was a free kick then given?
Yeah, but it's not black and white, Jay. It's a very grey area. Football works in grey areas. Come on, you know this.
Well, let's move. We'll move on from that. I mean, kind of on the back of that, but moving on a little bit. What are Leeds going to do to counteract this? Because this is going to be a problem going forward, Jay. We know the standard of refereeing. And by the way, I agree with you. I think it's a disgrace that the ball was out of play that much. And I bet if you look over the course of the season, how many times we appear on that list as the most amount of time wasted. It'll be Leeds United games. I guarantee it will be.
It will.
But what do we do to contend with this? What do we do to kind of
No, you're right. You're right.
Back against this. I mean, what
some of the responsibility is on us to deal with it better, and that is where a bit of experience, a bit of guile comes into it. We've got a young squad, and that does play a part. So I absolutely recognise that. I think this is a massive week for us. I know we're only in week 1 already, but we've got Middlesbrough in the Cup midweek. We've then got West Brom away, Sheffield Wednesday away, the big games. And I don't really subscribe to this kind of thought process that it's okay that we come out of that with a couple of points. We need to be winning games right from the back. We experienced an August last season, which cost us in the long run. I tend to lean on the side of agreeing with Tom in that I don't think the 49ers would panic after just August, but I do think he's on a tight leash of maybe 10 or so, 12 games. And where if we're not right in the thick of it, he's going to be under a lot of pressure from the 49ers because they need this club to go up this season. The club is not worth what they need it to be in the Championship. It's as simple as that. So I think it's a massive week. I think what I will say, Brownie, I've done a lot of looking at the performance, certainly going forward from the weekend. We were good going forward. We played some really good stuff. The wingers were cutting in as inverted 10s. The fullbacks were getting around the sides. We need to sharpen up defensively and we need to cut out the individual mistakes. Ilan Meslier needs to start actually saving some shots. You know, I watched the Bristol City game. I caught the highlights from when we played them last season and then again their game from the weekend. The keeper there made 4 or 5 saves that Meslier just would not have saved. You know, fairly simple, routine kind of saves, but ones where you're like, oh, it's a decent save by the keeper, and Meslier just won't make it. So, you know, that is something that we need to do. We just need to get another 10, 15% out of him because the facts are is not going to go anywhere. So, yeah.
Just one thing, just before we go over to Lou, who I know wants to ask you a question. I know there's quite a lot of people watching. If you can please like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Seeing me getting revved up today and we didn't even lose.
Brought the numbers in, mate. Brought the numbers in.
Good.
It's all about the bait. Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I watched it and I watched the second half because I was speaking to G on Saturday. I didn't get to watch it. From Farke's point of view, he's got to stand up for himself a little bit now because it could turn quite toxic quite quickly if results don't go the way. And I think to that point that you made about the start, and crikey, you guys have gone on about it enough for me to not have my opinion on. But Farke's got to call that out. He's got to be strong enough and kind of, if Leeds are going to be the best club in the Championship and kind of a bit us against their mentality, call it out. Because I remember in his first season, Eddie Howe were doing that with Newcastle. He wasn't people were expecting him to be quite placid and timid, but actually he came out and was, this is what we're going to do. And he was adamant on certain things, that how he is, how the team's going to play, the whole Manchester United fiasco against Ten Hag and all that kind of stuff. And it created actually us against them mentality, which actually worked in our favour. And I think Farke probably needs to consider that aspect of his coverage in the media locally and nationally. And also it might just swing a few opinions during match situations. If you stand up for yourself and really call it out to go to that point, the ball's in the play for 40 odd minutes. It's not excuses, it's a fact. If that's the case, it's a fact. You can come out and say it. So from my perspective, I think that's where, listen, he's not going to do it if we're winning, but I think when you're losing, it's going to be a fine balance for him to not sound like he's making excuses to save his job, but he needs to protect the club and his players to get them on the side and kind of go, right, boys, we're going to be up against it, and it's us to show what we can do.
I agree with you completely. I think a lot comes through him, and managing the media is part of a professional football manager's job. Like, it's a huge part of it. We've had some absolute legends at it, haven't we, over the years? Jose Mourinho comes to mind. Alex Ferguson was fantastic at it as well, playing the media in a certain way, playing the referees in a certain way. It's part of the job. I couldn't agree with you more. It has, for me, if I was a manager, I'd be making examples of the fouls, 3, 4, 5 fouls from the same player. You call that out. Why is he not getting booked? I'd be saying that afterwards, because it stops him doing it. It stops him. But the referees are time and time again. I know it's not just specific Leeds, but obviously as a Leeds biased fan, we watch them on the regular. It happens to us weekly. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you completely. Just coming back to Daniel Farke, he's won 2 games out of the last 10 now. Going back to last season. That matters for something. There's a bit of a pattern and a bit of a stretch now coming to this. So while Brownie, he's got his worries, I think a lot of fans are a little bit like this. It's teetering all the time. We're all worried about what happens when we get to the Premier League. For now, we just need to deal with this. You know what I mean?
Well, just
one
more thing on the back of that as well, Jane. The comment about Meslier. He saves it 49 out of 50 times, that only shot. Of course, you would never expect a manager to come out and say, yeah, he's useless, isn't it? But, I mean, it's just so detached from reality, so detached from what we've seen for the last 3 years. I'm looking at Farke going, is this guy bluffing a bit or what?
It's pure gaslighting. It's pure gaslighting. I mean, I've seen some fans saying that we shouldn't be kicking off about Meslier because it's only 1 game. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's 4 years. 4 seasons, 3 years worth of this now. And the funny thing with Daniel Farke is that he was quite quick to dig Aronson out straight after the game. He said that he contributed and he was glad that he got the goal and whatnot, but he said that he should finish that. And I thought it was quite harsh on him. But then he was so staunch in the defence of Meslier, who had an absolute stinker again. It's bizarre to me. Yeah. It's pure gaslighting the fan base because we know, we watch it. It's not reality.
Agree.
Well, there we go. Anything else, or should we put the court back in here? Or...
Look, that was a really good debate, lads. I really enjoyed that, listening to it as sort of a neutral sat listening in. It's good to hear what you all had to say about that. I enjoyed it, and I agree with your point about obviously Ferguson and Mourinho, what Lou and Jay hinted at. I mean, Ferguson was probably the first one to do it when he came into United, late 80s, early 90s, played it. It's almost a dark art, putting pressure on referees, putting pressure on the media in the build-up to games and after games, and it's been taken on since then, obviously, with other managers since then, but he was the first one to do it, and look what a difference it made. It turned United from a mid-table side, or not on its own, but played a part in turning them from mid-table side into a great side.
I'll just finish with saying, Tom is on the right side of the kind of opinion with this. We shouldn't be freaking out. We shouldn't be really panicking. It's one game. It's the Championship. The opening day always throws in a few spanners. Portsmouth had lost, I think it was 3 away games in the whole of last season. They're still riding that momentum, that crest of the wave. We created an inordinate amount of chances. Willing to have the most shots in the whole division at the weekend. And I think 9 times out of 10 we win that game regardless. So yeah, on to the next one. Looking forward to Middlesbrough and then West Brom on the weekend.
Let's turn our attention then to the first of the victorious sides in the West Yorkshire region and Huddersfield Town in League One. Mr. Downs, very happy, Mr. Downs, I imagine, because I'll be honest, I don't think, and Lou was keeping the predictions from last week's show. I'm fairly sure I went for a Peterborough win. So, to get that win at Peterborough United, Steve, you must be delighted with the result, the points, and the fact that, albeit one game, you currently sit top of the table.
Yeah, moving on from Leeds' relegation season to HMS Pistol League is set sail and Duffs ready to ride.
Oh.
No,
and that's what we've got time for, folks.
Yeah. No, it was great. It was a great win, to be honest. Like, what a way to start the season. Just so positive, and it was the fact it was against Peterborough, which delighted me even more. And I just think the team for the first sort of 25 minutes was a little bit edgy. I think we just worked his way into the fixture. Really, they had a couple of chances which arguably they should have done better with. One was over the top, and the lad sort of beat all our centre backs for pace, put it just wide of the post. Although I think Nichols had it covered, and then the second one, Con Clark just sort of tried to do Nichols with the eyes, but got it hopelessly wrong, and it was an easy save really. So, and then after about 30 minutes after we scored our first goal from Evans, I think it was sort of plain sailing. We took control and really showed the sort of quality that we have got in the team at this level. And the second half was just a breeze, to be honest. Peterborough hardly put a foot on us, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd say, I certainly expected it to be a tougher test than it turned out to be. It's the perfect start. What was Duff's kind of take on the game overall?
Yeah, I think he was happy with it. I think he's the kind of one of these coaches which I actually like, that he always wants to see improvements even after a victory. And there was a couple of things that he wants to obviously improve on. He's not one of these that he gets sort of high and pie in the sky sort of manager after a win, but he doesn't get too low after a defeat either. And I know that's a very cliche thing, but I think he's just, because of his background and the way that he's being brought up, clearly he's kind of one of these level-headed sort of chaps, and that comes across in his interviews. I have to say, he interviews sort of better than I ever thought he would, to be honest. I didn't listen to a lot of him at Barnsley or Swansea. I know he was a good manager, but I didn't obviously listen to a lot of his sort of post-match and pre-match stuff, but I just love the way he talks. He's just, after the last sort of couple of managers that we've had, particularly Darren Moore, that said everything in gobbledygook and said about 17,000 in his sentence, and Brian Reiter, that basically all he did was berate the players afterwards, whether they deserved some of them or not. It's just nice that to hear a manager speak, of us in such positive terms, and wants to have such a mindset going forward. So I think he was delighted with the performance, but he knows that it's the first of a long, hard road season ahead.
Yeah, before we come on to what's ahead for Town, is there any murmurings of the old transfer window? Obviously, another few weeks still to go into the ins and outs. Is there anything on the grapevine that you've picked up on for new arrivals or players moving on?
No, I think Bojan Radulovic is injured at the moment, but I'm pretty sure if the club can move him on or try to, they will do. They'll probably, say the same for Kean Harret as well, and maybe a couple of the other younger lads. But I think we're wanting to get a few more players in, particularly in the sort of upper end of the field. We definitely want another striker in. Brought Callum Marshall in the other day from West Ham. So it's more about what can we bring in before we let anybody else go, I think, first of all. Joe Taylor's still the big one from Luton, but I think we're just waiting for them to sign somebody, to be honest, because is it Macaulay Woodrow? He's in discussions with Derby, and then they let McAtee, is it McAtee?
Yeah, McAtee.
Yeah.
McAtee, yeah, they let him sign. I can't remember who he signed for now. Sorry?
Yeah.
You what, Jay?
Did he go Bolton?
Oh, yeah, Bolton. Yeah. He went to Bolton, yeah. So it's obviously that's two strikers that they're sort of looking to let go, and it'll be. I don't know whether he was on the bench tonight, Taylor, for Luton. Actually, if he was in the match day squad, it's more likely that it'll be very late to the window for them to let him go. If he wasn't in the squad, there's more chance that we're obviously likely to get him. So, from what I understand, we are top of the pile to get him.
He's on the bench. He is on the bench. To be fair, there's been a lot of murmurings once again across like Lincoln and a couple of other clubs that I've seen that are looking more likely that Joe Taylor will leave on loan because they want him for next season rather than this season. So it certainly seems that he may not necessarily actually get that permanent move away this summer that we a few of us certainly thought that he might have done earlier in the window.
No, I think it's more likely to be a loan. It would be nice if Town could wrap it into a permanent deal for next season, depending on what Luton do for transfer business, and obviously if they're looking to get promoted, aren't they, from the Championship again. So it'll be interesting to see how that sort of develops. But we definitely want one more in before the window ends.
In terms of this week, then, the fixtures looking ahead, obviously it's a cup game on, is it Tuesday or Wednesday night? Tuesday night against Morecambe, and then obviously a league game at home against Stevenage on Saturday. I mean, as for the cup game itself, are you expecting Duff to rotate where he can just to give minutes to lesser players, perhaps the likes of Kean Harret, etc., getting some minutes in the tank, or are you expecting to kind of stick with the similar sort of side and try and build momentum with the same squad?
No, he's been very set in terms of his what he said in the press conference today, that it probably will be a changed team as much as he's allowed to. I don't know. They have a thing, don't they, in the Bristol Motors where you've got to play a certain amount of your starters. I'm not sure if that's the same in the League Cup, to be honest. Maybe one of you lads knows different, but I think he'll look to make as many changes as he possibly can. That's not to freshen things up or anything. I think he just wants to give other lads a chance. I can definitely see Chris Maxwell coming in and playing in goal. Matty Pearson will definitely probably play. And then I expect, Harret, Marshall, Ward, the lads that were on the bench or didn't play, obviously, to get a chance. And yeah, there's a lot of games in League One. You're constantly playing Saturday, Tuesday in cup games and all the rest of it. So I'm hoping tomorrow that we win. It's not the most vital thing. I think we probably will have too much for Morecambe, if I'm honest. But I expect them to come and want to beat us, in terms of their cup run. And obviously it's more money for them if they get through. But the bigger one, obviously, is on Saturday against Stevenage. And I know that they've kind of lost a lot of momentum from what they had last season, but they've still got some blooming good players there. And they'll definitely come to the John Smiths to give us a test. So I'm not saying any game is easy this season, to be honest, because every game has got something interesting riding on it. That's what I've kind of looked through the fixtures this season and sort of with the teams that we're playing, and every game's got a point of interest, just with either we've not played them in a long time or whether they're going to try and be there at the top with us or whatever, really. So it was really interesting watching League One over the weekend. Do you know what? I really enjoyed it as well. It's mad tonight not watch the same teams that you've watched for the last sort of like 10 years and just expect the same sort of results. So it was I found it really interesting.
Before we go on to kind of making predictions looking ahead to the weekend, which reminds me we actually need to go back to Leeds as well and make the Leeds predictions, Brownie. But Ian's kind of asked about Kean Harret, and I don't know where you stand with Kean Harret. You know, has he kind of all been forgiven a clean slate? Obviously, he was suspended for the betting charges that he suffered back in, I think, February. That he was given that suspension. So,
Yeah.
where are things for Kean Harret? You know, in terms of a Huddersfield Town future, has he got one, or is he one that you suspect may move out either on loan or permanently?
Yeah, I think he's got, he's got a future in some sense. Obviously, he's got a big future in football, I think, at some kind of level. I don't think, it's one of them, really. Town fans, there's nothing to forgive from Town fans' point of view, because he's not done anything wrong to Town fans. He's just done something wrong to the FA that he shouldn't have done. Yeah. So, and he's paid that price. He was, last season, he would have played more games, I would have thought, than what he did. But obviously he was banned for 4 months. And listen, he's now the problem for Harret is we've brought in, Healy. We're looking to have another lad come in. We've brought Marshall in, so there's more competition this season for him, and that's the problem that he's got now. If he plays in the cup games and shows what he's about, then that might turn into the league form. He did come on Saturday, so. Listen, whether he's got a future at Town, I think he's yet to be seen, depending on who we bring in. But I can see him going out on loan somewhere and getting some minutes. So, yeah, there's nothing to forgive from our point of view. I think it's just the lad will probably regret, what he did and how it's affected his sort of future a little bit, to be fair.
Let's look ahead then in terms of predictions. In fact, let's turn our attention to Statman Lou, as I'm now calling him. I'm pinching that from 5 Live. Statman Lou. Last week, the predictions, how did they go for the Leeds games as well as the Huddersfield games? We do need to come back to Jay and Brownie's predictions as well, looking ahead for their games this week.
So funny enough, nobody predicted a 3-3 draw. There were plenty of predictions for 3 goals for Leeds, but definitely not 3 for Portsmouth. So nobody got that one right, but somebody did get right for the Huddersfield Town game, and that is our very own glue of the show, Mr. Gaz.
Yeah. Old Jode himself.
I never get any predictions right, so the fact that I've got a Town win right is absolutely baffling.
All right, mate. If you can predict it again, that'd be superb. See how long you can keep the run going.
I'll keep trying.
Do we want to go back and do the Leeds ones, Brownie, and then we'll come to Huddersfield? Or we've made a bit of a hash of this, but we'll carry on.
We'll plough through. Yeah, what was the Leeds predictions then? Are we giving them, or is he telling us what we did? Or
that's far off.
I think he's talking about Middlesbrough and West Brom.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Middlesbrough 1-0. I'm going to go for Leeds. That is West Brom 1-1. Farker under pressure.
I think it'll be tough Wednesday. And I think we'll see changes. It's a really tough game to predict because I think Middlesbrough are going to be right up there. 1-1, one way or another after on penalties, maybe. Tricky one. I think we'll win at the weekend. 1-0.
Go on then, Dave. You obviously couldn't join us last week. We were all doing our score predictions for everybody else's teams as well. Care to have an opinion on Leeds, or are you just not that bothered?
Just don't care.
I think I'm more in Jason's camp, to be honest. And I mean, if Leeds are obviously want to have a real good crack at the Championship in a fashion they could do with not having the distraction of the League Cup or those extra fixtures, I get that you could rotate and maybe try and use some fringe players, but truth be told, they could do without the League Cup really this year. So I don't know if that'll be Farker's opinion. I think they'll be defeated
2-1 against Middlesbrough in the cup.
Against Middlesbrough in the cup.
Yeah. And then mine's going to be the other way around.
Fair enough. And then West Brom away for Leeds at the weekend.
It could literally go either way, really, couldn't it? I can't just remember what West Brom did at the weekend. It's at the Hawthorns, though. I take it.
Won 3-1 at QPR.
Josh Madger.
Yeah, Madger hat trick.
I think it could be another draw, and I think we might be here next week with like the same unpicking of why was it a draw rather than a win for Leeds. I think it'd be very similar. 2-2.
That's brilliant. Can I just say before Downton makes his predictions, Dave, that is a superb moustache.
Thank you.
No worries.
We're gonna be rating mustaches next.
Would you call it immaculate?
No, it's quite
That's not
soft
joke.
around the edges. Actually, it's not immaculate.
It will be. Sounds it.
My prediction, what for Leeds? I'll go. I think they'll win 2-1 in the cup. To be fair to them, and I'll go for a 1-1 draw against West Bromwich Albion with a last-minute penalty to Madge that isn't supposed to be a penalty.
Yeah, you know what? You're pretty much writing the script there. I can see that. I like Ryan's comment. I predict the ball to be in play for 42 minutes. I think that's hilarious.
That's the new Kaiser Chiefs remix. Brilliant.
To be fair, we should have all predicted that last week as well. Like, if it was a draw, there'd be a meltdown in the fan base.
Don't set me off.
Gaz, are your Leeds predictions? Middlesbrough in the cup, West Brom away at the weekend.
I think it'll be 2 tight games. I think that they could lose after extra time in the cup, maybe 2-1. But I think they'll win at West Brom. I think they'll bounce back in the league. I think, having watched what I saw, I didn't see all of the game on Saturday, but what I did see of the game, they should have won that game. And if they keep playing like that, they don't have anything to fear going anywhere. I think they'll win maybe 2-1 at West Brom.
I'm not going to lie, Gaz. Your first prediction is bloody unlikely because they scrapped extra time in the League Cup. But apart from that, it's all
Oh,
good.
they?
They have, yeah. It just goes straight to
90th minute
penalties now.
penalty then, like Downsy.
Cool. Nice.
I'm going to go for a Leeds penalty win against Middlesbrough, and I'm going to go for a 1-0 West Brom win on whatever day that's on.
You would be seeing an absolute meltdown from the fan base if that happens. I know, and that sounds ridiculous. But you would.
I think West Brom are going to be up there. I think they will be one of the sides up there and at home. It is a hard game. Like Josh Marshall will be like buzzing after the weekend.
I really didn't want to have to step back into Leeds, but obviously we're now talking the weekend. Just very, very quickly, what I will say is we have to win these kind of games if we want to go up.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether it's the second game of the season or the 25th game of the season. So for me, again, and I'm sure Brown is exactly the same with this, there's no excuse for Daniel Farke that he's West Brom away. It didn't wash for me.
Let's whip round the town predictions because Lou's got about 75 non-league clubs to go through as well.
Can we hear Lou's Leeds predictions first?
Yeah.
He should get
as
well.
This is why Gaz is the glue.
Yeah. And while I charge my phone up now to make all of his predictions, because I wasn't expecting that one, I'm going to go 2-0 Borough, and then I'm going to go 3-1 Leeds on Saturday.
Nice.
Interesting.
Right. Huddersfield Town, Brownie. Go.
Okay.
Huddersfield Town against. Are we doing
Morecambe?
Yeah, so it's Morecambe in the League Cup on Tuesday, and then Stevenage at home on the weekend.
Right, we'll make this quick. 1-0 to Huddersfield Town for Morecambe, and then a 1-1 draw against Stevenage.
James Browner, confident.
Huddersfield to win. 1-1 at the John Smiths. Morecambe to win on penalties.
That would be a town thing to do.
Who have you got the weekend? Sorry,
Stevenage.
Interesting one.
Beat Shrewsbury 1. It's at home. Yeah. Stevenage beat Shrewsbury 1-0 last weekend.
I think they'll win as well. I think they'll win again. 2-0.
Dave Foy, Huddersfield Town.
So 4-1 against Morecambe, and I think it'll be 2-0 against Stevenage.
Love you, Dave. Fantastic.
No.
Stephen Downs.
I'll go for. Do you know what? Dave actually stole my thunder. I was going to go for a 4-1 win, but I'll be different. I'll go for a 3-1 win against Morecambe, and I think we will beat Stevenage 2-1.
Gaz?
Are they both at home?
Yes.
Yeah.
3-0, they'll beat Morecambe. 2-0, they'll beat Stevenage.
I will go for a Huddersfield 2-0 win against Morecambe and why not? A 3-2 Huddersfield Town win against Stevenage. Because I like goals. Why wouldn't I? Lou?
2-0 against Markham. 4-1 on the weekend.
4-1. Wow.
Yeah.
Just before we move on to Bradford, I thought Peterborough were terrible in that second half.
They were, but we were good.
Town did a really good job of kind of getting on top of the game, kind of then building on the goal. But Peterborough were pathetic. I thought they were going to be a real force. And under Darren Ferguson, they've still got some, like Ricky J. Jones is a good player. Like, they've still got some talent in that squad. I thought they looked all over the place. They missed a couple of chances. And then Huddersfield scored. The keeper for the goal was just, I don't know what he was doing. He's doing a Melier. And then the game just went. It was just completely one-sided after that.
Yeah,
I don't want to say I'm panicking a little bit, but I put Peterborough to be top 2.
Yeah.
And already I'm thinking, crikey, this isn't a good start for that prediction.
Darren Ferguson will be sacked in October, and they'll bring him back in March for his 5th goal.
My internet went to pot. Did we finish the predictions, by the way?
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
we did.
Yeah.
Just checking.
Move on to the Bantams now.
Onwards to the Bantams.
Onwards to the Bantams, indeed. Gaz, an unbelievable opening day win, 2-1 against MK Dons, a lot of people's league favourites. 2-0 up after just a few minutes as well. I mean, Gaz, you couldn't wish for a better start, could you?
Not really. Really, really happy with that. I have met MK Dons to win the league. One of the many people who do. I just didn't see us going there and getting a result. I thought it'd be typical City that we'd probably get beat. I think I said 2-0. But we started really fast. Got a really good goal. The first goal's a really good goal. It's a great strike from Alex Patterson. I'm sure most of you have seen it. The second goal's an absolute fluke. It's a complete mess from the MK Dons defenders.
Tell us about that long goal, Gaz. Tell us, describe it for those that haven't seen it, because it was hilarious.
Well, it's not just the lad who scores the own goal, but it's a bit of a mess all round, really. And Tyreek Wright puts the ball in from the left wing back position, or it's more of a left wing position when he puts the ball in, and the lad goes to clear it with his right foot and slices it past the keeper at the near post into his own goal. I actually thought it had gone wide at first. I thought, when the net ripples and you think it might have gone behind the goal and be rippling it from behind the goal, it was one of those. But the commentators, when the commentators said, it's 2-0, I was like, oh, God. After that point in the game, I thought MK Dons really came to. They showed what they're all about. I think they played some really good football. They'll probably play the best football out of most teams in League Two this season. City aren't going to play many teams anywhere near that level, I don't think, in League Two. I expect Notts County to be decent and Port Vale to be decent as well. But I think MK Dons played the best football. They scored a goal to make it 2-1 that came down their left, down our right. Brad Halliday got absolutely rinsed for pace, which was a bit surprising to see, having seen him have such a good season last season. But the fella that scored did really, really well and finished well past Walker. After that, I thought that MK Dons had lots and lots of chances. We threw our bodies on the line. Sam Walker's made some really good saves. But we were always a threat on the break. I never thought that we were out of the game. Even obviously, we're winning 2-1, but I never thought that we couldn't add to our scoreline. Andy Cook had a good chance second half that he made for himself with a great turn on the right touchline and cuts inside, buffles his way past a couple of players and goes to dink it over the keeper. And actually, it's the keeper in the face, and it ends up being a good save. But we were always a threat. And probably MK Dons were the better team. But we've done what we've wanted City to do for a while. We've gone in front and then we've scrapped, and we've really scrapped, and we've thrown our bodies on the line, and we've got off to a really good start. And I just hope now that we can build on that, because the problem for City, as we all know, over the last year or two has been consistency. So to go and win there in what is, like I said, one of the toughest games of the season has to be backed up now.
Yeah,
sorry for jinxing in Gaz when they scored, mate. I didn't mean to do that, but it's quite funny, wasn't it? Timing-wise.
Talk to us about Patterson, Alex Patterson. Obviously, a terrific strike after 3 minutes and somewhat a forgotten man at Bradford City. Could he have a big impact this season, do you think, Gaz?
Yeah, Alex Patterson actually came in last year on the back of us not signing Johnny Williams from Wrexham, who obviously went to Gillingham and did the dirty on us at the last minute. Alex Patterson came in, sort of our second choice, and was so I was really pleased with the signing, because I'd seen him play a few times for Harrogate. I knew how highly Harrogate fans rated him. He came in and he had a really, really good start to his City career, scored 2 or 3 goals early doors in the season, looked a real threat, running beyond Cook from midfield. Good goal at home. I can't remember who it was against, but possibly the first or the second home game of the season. And then also Accrington Stanley in the League Cup, scored a really good goal running beyond Cook and finishing well. Then he picked up a hamstring injury, was out for a while. Hughes brought him back for a league game away at Tranmere in October, which was actually Hughes' last game in charge. And he pulled up after about 5 or 10 minutes and was out again for a long, long time. The feeling was that he'd perhaps been rushed back. Again, he was out for a while. Didn't appear until Doncaster away just before Christmas when he came on as a sub. Played about 10 minutes, finished the game, and then it broke in the news the next day that he's felt his hamstring again after the game and didn't play again for the rest of the season. So it was a huge miss because he'd started so well. And then, like I said, not seen really, barring 2 or 3 fleeting appearances. And yeah, he's fought his way back and he looked in pre-season like a really, really good player again. I thought that it would be harsh to take Jamie Walker and Bobby Pointon out of the side because they finished the season so well last year. They were a big part of us on that winning run that we finished the season with. We looked a real attacking threat from midfield, a goal threat with both Pointon and Walker. But I did say on the pod last week that even though I would have stuck with Walker and Pointon, I did think that Graham Alexander, the way that pre-season had gone, would be going with Patterson and Sarcevic, and that's what he did. And Patterson got man of the match, and he was absolutely fantastic. Played a really, really, really good performance in. Thoroughly deserved his man of the match. Said it was the best goal he'd ever scored. It was a great strike, like I said. If you've not seen it, go and watch it. But yeah, hopefully he can stay fit and he can be the player for us this year that he looks like being at the start of last season.
Yeah, indeed. How did you think the other debutants got on then? Baldwin, Byrne, etc. How do you think they coped?
The big one's Tyreek Wright at left wing back, really. People split opinion-wise on him, whether he can do the job there. Very good going forward, but will always be suspect defensively because he's never been a wing back. He's always been a winger, and we're trying to play him as a wing back. I thought he did all right. He's taken a bit of criticism, but again, he's up against MK Dons, and they're going to pass it around, and they're going to move, and they're going to create problems for him, and it's a tough ask for him to be learning the trade somewhere like that. But I thought he did okay. He looks a real threat going forward. He got 2 assists, so he's offering the attacking threat that we knew he would, and that Alexander obviously wants him to offer. I think that we'll see more of that in home games. I was surprised a little bit that he started at MK Dons because people were saying that Lewis Richards had been the better player at left wing back throughout pre-season. And obviously, when you're up against a tough side away, you're going to struggle defensively if you're not used to playing that position. But yeah, I thought he did fine. I'm not going to jump on the criticisms that some people are saying that he struggled defensively because I don't think he did particularly more than anyone else would have done, and he was up against a tough side. Centre back wise, I thought Aidan Baldwin, Neil Byrne was steady, not fantastic, not terrible, steady. I thought it was a decent enough start. Like I said, they put the bodies on the line, weren't throwing themselves in front of shots and blocking the ball when they needed to, which is all you can ask for, really, when you're up against it. And yes, steady away starts, nobody disappointed. I was quite happy with the performances of the new boys, to be honest. Like I said, the big thing now is consistency, and hopefully the fact that we've brought in winners in Byrne and Baldwin and Sarcevic and people that have been there and achieved success at this level and the one below before means that we'll be a bit more consistent this season. That's all we can ask for.
Good stuff. Grimsby in the Cup up next, and then you got Salford next weekend. How do you see those games going, Gaz?
We should beat Grimsby. We should do. Grimsby are tipped to struggle this year. The manager that's gone in there did a really good job at Crewe a few years ago, but has struggled to get a job since. And as it finally rocked up at Grimsby back end of last season, kept them up. But I believe that the fans weren't particularly confident of them staying up. And obviously they did, and they're tipped to struggle this year. But this is like what I'm talking about with consistency. We have to go to these sides and put in the performance that we did at MK Dons and back it up with a performance at a team like Grimsby. We're tipped to be struggling at the other end of the table. I think there'll be changes. I think there has to be. There were talks about players who were left out of the squad of the 18 on Saturday. Tyler Smith was left out completely. Sam Stubbs left out completely. Alex Gilead surprisingly left out completely. and Tyler Smith left out completely. They were the 4 that would have been really disappointed not to be being involved. Obviously, there were others as well, but they'd be the 4. I would imagine that your Jamie Walkers, your Bobby Pointons will probably appear in the starting 11, and maybe your Lewis Richards, your Tyler Smiths will appear on the bench. There will be changes. I think there has to be. Although Alexander has not really done that in the past. He's always tried to stick with a fairly steady 11, even like in the Papa John's Trophy last year when people were tipping him to make changes. He didn't always do that. I think he probably will tomorrow night, and I expect us to win the game. But like I said, expectation with City is what often brings problems. We need to find that consistency. Yeah,
indeed. Just to get score predictions then, Gaz, how do you see those 2 games going?
Oh, yeah, I never mentioned Salford, did I? Salford, again, that's our first home game of the season. We've got Salford and Bromley back-to-back home games. Salford, I think, will do better this year than they did last year, but they started with a defeat, I think, at home to Port Vale on Saturday. Yeah. Port Vale, another one I think will do well this year. So they'll be looking to bounce back, and Carl Robinson will come, and his teams always play football. So hopefully that'll play into our hands a little bit, like you hope they do, rather than just parking the bus at Valley Parade. It might be a similar game to MK Dons in that respect, in that they'll pass it and they'll move and they'll attack. So hopefully more of the same. I think we'll beat Grimsby 2-1. Salford, I'm going to go with a draw at home to Salford. I can't see us winning 3 in a bounce at the start of the season.
Predictions elsewhere. Chris, how do you see those games going?
Well, I can't do anything like predicting a Grimsby win, can I? So 12-0 Bradford. Now I'll go 3-0 Bradford.
Imagine if it were 12. Just imagine, right? And you didn't put that bet on.
Oh. And then against Salford, I will go for a 2-1 City win.
Did I give you the score for the Salford game? I think I just said draw, didn't I? I'll go 1-1, Lou, just for your records.
Good job, because I put that down anyway.
Sorry, Brad. Just before we get too far, Ian's just put about Ollie Sanderson signing on loan from Fulham. Does that mean Jake Young is probably going to see an exit?
You would predict so, Jay. Yeah. It's a little bit confusing, a little bit mixed messages again, because Alexander said again last week that we were basically at a stage now where it was players needed to go before anyone else could come in. The main position people were talking about was cover for Richie Smallwood in defensive midfield, and the fact we probably needed to move on Kevin McDonald and Adam Wilson in order to bring that player in. He spoke about PSR and he spoke about squad size and saying he couldn't bring more players in for financial reasons, and also he didn't want to have too big a squad and players being unhappy, which he has spoken about before. So the fact that we have brought another striker in, we now have 7 on the books, is a bit of a shocker today. It's, like I said, a bit of mixed messages, but you would imagine that either Jake Young, who's been heavily linked with a move away, or Tyler Smith, who was left out of the squad, the 18 on Saturday, you would imagine one of them two is close to being moved on. That's all I can say. The 7th striker is Harry Ibbotson, who's a youth team prospect, just got his first pro deal. Maybe he'll go on loan. Verdane Oliver's been linked with moves away throughout the summer, but I believe now he's settled and he's going to stay as back up to Andy Cook, so I'd be a little bit shocked if he was to go. I'd say, yeah, Jake Young or Tyler Smith must be close to a move for me.
He's well rated, is Ollie Sanderson. I know that he signed a new contract with Fulham, and I can't imagine that they would send him out on loan to League Two without the expectation of playing probably every week. You know, he certainly would imagine that he'll be promised a certain amount of game time. You know, Premier League teams don't just give new 2-year contracts out to just anybody. So I think it's a good move. I know he played about 20 odd times for Sutton last season, I think it was.
Yeah. He had 2 loan spells at Oxford City. One when they got promoted from the Conference South, and then another one last year when they were relegated from the National League, and then he went to Sutton and played 20 odd games there. Obviously they got relegated, but he scored goals in all 3 of those loan spells. So you're right, I think they will be expecting to play. It probably the person who you would think it raises questions over as a starting player is Callum Kavanagh, which is tough because he's done really well since he came in. He was the player that started up front with Cook on Saturday. He's done, like I said, done really, really well. Fans like him, been impressed with him. He was arguably poor on Saturday. I thought he struggled. He gave the ball away a lot. But it's the first game of the season, and you're not going to write him off given that he had such a stellar start last year. So, yeah, it's presumably going to be between Sanderson and Kavanagh to start up front with Cook going forward, you would have thought.
Good stuff. Finishing off the predictions then for Bradford City. So I am going to go 1-0 Grimsby, but then 2-0 against Salford. You'd take that, Gaz, wouldn't you?
Losing to Grimsby and beating Salford? Yeah.
Jay?
Jay?
I am going to go for 3 out of 3 wins for our guys. I think they'll beat Grimsby comfortably 2-0, and I think they'll beat Salford 2-1.
Dave, what are you thinking, mate?
Can we all agree to never look up what the record win is in the Football League as a show? Can we all agree to never ever look it up?
I swear to do that, Dave, by what you want.
Thanks,
Is it
Steve.
Halifax, Dave?
They are involved in it, yeah.
Yeah,
I won't look at it, Dave. For the time being, you keep your tash.
What?
Oh, wow.
Once that tash goes, I'm looking at it.
Yeah, well, I'll keep it. I'll keep it forever then.
Good.
I think Grimsby will win on penalties, and I think it'll be a 1-0 win to Bradford against Salford.
Very good, Mr. Downs.
I lose fantastic at Blackmail. Love it. Yeah, I'm gonna go, guys. I'm gonna stick with you, mate. I know that we had some banter with Jay in the chat, but I'm gonna go with the Bantams 3 wins as well. I'm gonna go Bradford 3, Grimsby 1, and I'm gonna go with a 2-1 win over Salford.
Lou.
I was going to say, I think it's just Lou to go now, isn't it?
Lou to go.
Where are you, Grimsby? 1-0 at Grimsby. You're off to Wembley again, Gaz.
Cheers, pal.
And then you're going to beat Salford 2-0.
Yeah. You want to watch much of City's inconsistency this year, don't you?
Bradford City will be the best, I tell you.
Yeah, but you do this, guys. You win about 5 on bounce and then lose 5, so just give it a few weeks.
It's true. You're right, mate. That's the problem last year, and like I was saying there, it's something we need to stamp out. You're spot on.
So nice seeing Gaz happy, though. I love it. It brightens my Monday. It really does.
Oh, that cupping carries on.
I've got to ask though, Downsy, which one pleases you more, seeing Gaz happy or Jay annoyed and irritated?
Oh no, I'm not, because I'm not bothered about Leeds. Small fry out there. I'm bothered about.
Right.
Let's swiftly move on. Don't forget, if you are enjoying the stream, you can give us a like on YouTube. You can give us a follow on X as well at the West Yorkshire Football Show. We're on Facebook as well. Again, just search for the West Yorkshire Football Show. And if you're under the age of 14, we're also on that TikTok thing. Let's turn our attention to the non-league scene in West Yorkshire. And Dave, I'll be honest, again, I think we're starting with a result that FC Halifax Town pulled out of the bag that not too many of us were necessarily predicting, but a great start to the season, a 2-1 win against the bookies' favourites and a lot of other people's favourites for the National League title, Barnet.
Yeah, I mean, it's another one. It's another dig at them that always try and do these comprehensive write-ups of league predictions, and they always stick teams like Barnet and that up around first and second, and Halifax, you know, anywhere outside the top 10, and it's a massive 2 fingers up to them as usual.
You're talking about us there, Dave, by the way, because
no, like literally all these like gurus that think that they look at teams, you know, what they've signed on paper. I think it was Clough that said it. You know what I mean? Teams on paper don't win football matches. It's as simple as that.
I think we all had Barnet at the top of our league predictions, didn't we?
Yeah, I didn't, funnily enough.
Well, no, we didn't expect you to, Dave.
No, you saw that tweet about, you know, dark horse, who's going to get relegated, who's going to get promoted, and I was just like, don't know, don't care. No, Barnet are traditionally a team, not a bogey team as such, but they're not a team we beat very often. So there is that. And I mean, they finished second last year. I know they had an underwhelming playoff ending, losing 4-0 at home to Solihull. Like the chips again were stacked almost in Barnet's favour on paper. First half, not a lot to write home about, but you know, in the build up to the game, the Courier report was about our new signing Adam Toro. More of him later on. he was interviewed and they were saying you're going to be up against Nicky Kabamba, who's going to be like a bit of a benchmark for what you can expect for National League strikers. Now, having heard Adam Toro speak, he's a man of few words, but, you know, he was saying, you know, I'm looking forward to the challenge, blah, 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 blah. We come into the game without Kane Thompson-Summers or Florent Hotty in midfield, two very influential players. That's on top of also not having Max Wright, who scored 7 from the wing last season. We also didn't have Joe Cummings, which allowed AAA Adam Otero to play. So, you know, we come into the game with his own injury worries, and we restricted Barnet to nothing in the first half. Like the only shots they had on target was for their goal. You know, and if this is the so-called benchmark for what they expect to be one of the top teams, I know it's only the first day of this. You know, it's the first game of the season. It can be a bit topsy-turvy. We've turned in a 10 out of 10 performance. Like, not one of our players had a bad game. I mean, Barnet will be fine. I'm sure Barnet will be up there come the end of the season. I mean, they've got some very tidy players. They tried to play out from the back. They had a number 10, Stead. I didn't catch his first name. He could
Callum.
beat 3 or 4 players.
Callum Stead is a fantastic play. He tore Rochdale to pieces last season.
And I mean, his opposite number 11, Kanu, was just a clown, basically. I don't know how else to put it. It was shocking. But again, he's one of those players that exist at every level where it's like, if he just knuckled down and played football, he'd just be incredible. But he's too busy arguing with referees, throwing himself about. It's a very Southern team in our league trait. They're all very similar. They all have this same game plan. That they're all built similar, like Barnet, Wealdstone, whoever you want to name, Sutton, they're all the same. Pretty big physical team. But if you try and mix it with them, they just go down pretty easy, and they will argue every decision. They're all cut from the same cloth. I mean, have we all seen our first goal? It was put out onto our socials. I thought it was like just superb. Such a good goal. That's Aidan George, you see. We signed him last year. He had a bit of a stop-start. It's beginning to his season. He had a 3-game suspension for getting sent off at Bromley, which disrupted his flow. He was getting caught offside quite a lot in the first half, and from where I was sat, I couldn't really tell if that was sort of like the correct or the officials were a little bit inconsistent. Well, again, I'll move on to them in a minute. But yeah, he obviously knocked the ball past the defender, and he just wanted it more. He's pulled it back to Cook and put it into back at net. Like, it's such a good move. Like, honestly, like, I was basking in the glory of that, and I didn't even realise Barnet had equalised because I was just replaying it in my head, just thinking about it constantly, you know. But we've got the youngest average age again, I think, in the league, and they all stepped up. They all stepped up on Saturday. Chris Millington made the right substitutions at the right time. He brought players like Aaron Cosgrave on, who was pressing from the front. Zach Emerson come on. Admittedly, I think, in my opinion, Emerson's maybe a little bit unfit. He could maybe do being a half a stone lighter, but he's had a stop-start to his career. I mean, we paid an undisclosed fee for him from Blackpool, who were 2 leagues above us. You know what I mean? A lot of their supporters on socials were a bit like, why have we let this guy go? Like, why are we not giving him a chance? Yada, yada, yada. And that's so not like us. You know, that really ain't like us. So I'm expecting things from Emerson, but, you know what I mean? I'm willing to allow him the time to hopefully get into his stride. We've got crucial players to come back. We didn't have too many chances on goal ourselves. Don't get me wrong. I think there was maybe 3, 4, 5 shots on target. You're talking 3 goals. We've been clinical when we needed to be. I mean, the first half, arguably, the best chance fell to Sam Johnson, who tried to dink their goalkeeper from a free kick in his own half, which he did that thing where he like saved it on the line and put his hands out in front of him. So like, look, it definitely didn't go over the line. Like half a second too late, and it's in back of your net. So yeah, chuffed. I'm really, really, really chuffed. I am really, really am. I'm suited.
This might be the happiest podcast we've ever done. Genuinely. I know you two at the top are not happy, but the rest of us are absolutely beaming.
Imagine what it would be like if few of us get promoted at end of season. Imagine what that'd be like.
Imagine.
Promotion party.
Yeah, imagine if like Leeds, Town, and City all got, and Halifax, and then all 4 of us got promoted. And
And Bradford Park Avenue. And Avenue.
And Lincoln.
No, we're not. We're not.
All of those minus
Chris
Leeds.
cuddling himself in the corner.
Another fail playoff attempt for Lincoln, but you know, there we go.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Dave, because I was reading in Halifax Courier, Tom Scargill, and he was in his match report for the game, and he was saying he was kind of surprised by the performance, really, considering half the team was missing, and saying it was a hugely underwhelming pre-season. I mean, is that what it was like, really? Because obviously I've not spoken to you on the show for a few weeks. Was it a massively kind of underwhelming pre-season, and obviously it makes it a bit sweeter, doesn't it, then, that you go and beat title favourites on the opening day?
Yeah, I mean, this one sentence will probably sum up the whole pre-season. We faced 3 teams from leagues below us and didn't score in his last 3 games. We lost 2-0 at Ashton, and truth be told, I didn't attend any of the friendlies, and I followed them loosely. I tried to catch up with Chris Millington's interviews or whatever he did with the paper, but they're always the same. The pre-seasons are like, we're trying to get minutes into legs. We're trying out like Frankie Sinfield, who's got a shirt. He's got a squad number this year. He's in the first team, but he's one of our youth team players. Ted Lavelle. We've been mixing and matching trialists. So it just proves that pre-season results sometimes don't really count for anything. We've had good pre-seasons in the past and then struggled in the league campaign, and obviously like this season's vice versa. We've lost Kane, Thompson, Summers, and Flora. I mean, we never had Hottie for this pre-season. He's had an operation on his shoulder, so we knew he would be out. But we lost Kane, Thompson, Summers pretty early on in pre-season, so we've been without him. And I think what it is that his players that have been good have just been described as like comfortable or just breezed through pre-season, and that is players like Adam Aid Toro and Will Smith, who we signed from York, who I believe both of them got in respective Vanarama and non-league paper team of the weeks. That we would, like I say, you could have put any of our 11 in those team of the weeks. I usually don't read a lot into them. Like they mean nothing really in the grand scheme of things. They're just a nice little weekly accolade that you can achieve. But it's the fact that they've had to pick different players in different team of the weeks, and the fact that they've even made teams of the weeks proves that we've been very, very good. It was a run out for Angelo Capello, who's like 5'4", up against some big physical like lads, and he dealt with Kanu, their number 11 on the wing. All in all, most of the time, fairly well. He got turned inside out a couple of times, but recovered. But yeah, we won our individual battles almost. There was a little bit of over the top from both teams, just bypassing midfield in spells. But when you win a game, you find out you tend to win most of your individual battles as well. Chris Millington was full of praise for Dean Brennan, who's Barnett's manager for their team. He says, I'm sure they're going to be fine this year. But it just shows like the grit and determination from our team. I mean, some of Barnett's supporters on social media have almost said the same. They're like, we've lost this game because we haven't worked hard enough, whereas Halifax have. They have worked hard enough. They're maybe not the greatest of teams, but they're always 10 out of 10 in terms of sort of working the socks off, basically, which is something I've always tried to say. Whatever's been going on with Chris Millington, and he goes through like these rocky phases, and I've said it before on this show, I think it all stems from the fact that when he first started, we had a terrible start, and people have never been able to properly get over it. I mean, we've won an FA trophy. We finished the end of that season well. We finished in the playoffs last season. Had it have not been for our hectic running and to Solihull, where there was a little bit of walking wounded, possibly some tiredness, who knows where we'd have gone in that playoffs. I mean, for my playoff prediction, and I said it and I'll say it again, if we'd have turned up in those playoffs, I had no doubt we'd have won them. We would have won them. I really think that. But we've come into this season, we've lost key players again, and we've replaced with young. That's been the philosophy of the club since it got back to, well, when it got back to National League level, actually, we tried with like loan signings. We tried to get loan strikers in, a few names in on loan, found that they found form and then left, and it'd leave us in the lurch like, what we're going to do now. So the general plans, especially since Pete Wild and Chris Millington have been involved, it's the 6th season now. We've always been the same. We've took on like youngsters out of academies or the occasional person that's done well in the leagues below, although whereas that used to be our staple about 10 years ago, a lot of other clubs have adapted and learned, and they're willing to give a chance to players from lower down now. So our days of probably plucking a Jamie Vardy from Stockbridge are over, because teams in the Football League are willing to basically take the hit on players now. They either work out. If they don't, it's almost small change to some clubs. But yeah, I'm happy with how I'm happy with how we've started this season. You know, yeah, I'm chuffed.
What is it, Dave, down at the Shave, that you turn up against the so-called big teams that come down there and to turn them over? You've done it years on years and years now. You've done it against Wrexham, you against Chesterfield last year, you've done it against Barnet already this year, albeit the first game. There's just something in the air at the Shave that you turn up against the big guns.
We've always just been an underdog since we were formed. We've had 100 years of mostly being the underdog, other than having to reform down at, you know, Northern Premier and below level, where we were like there to be shot at. We've tended to always embrace that underdog mentality. Some supporters, especially like newer generations that have only really known 2 Wembley trips, 2 wins, promotions, playoff pushes, they're like, we need to change this kind of mindset, but it works for us. I won't class Barnet as like a huge club. Like, us and Barnet are pretty much the same size. What we struggle against, and we've touched on it in this show earlier, is the likes of your Wealdstons and your lower league teams that just come and they'll just sit back. You know, they go to take a throw, they leave it for the mate. He pretends he's going to throw it, then he ties his shoelace. Ref's like, should I book him? It's like, get it out and book them and sort it out. But anyway, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, a bit of a rant.
Tell him, Dave.
But this literally happens at all levels. Teams do it against us.
Tag team Jay in here.
Yeah, there's
Teams
some
do it against us. You know,
going on there, Jay.
And I say it all the time, refs must see it every week. They must surely think, the goalie's moved his goal kick from the left side to the right side of his 6-yard box, and that team's winning. It's like, at some point, someone must just click in your head and think, maybe the time wasting. And they leave it like all game, like that Kanu were just a disgrace on Saturday. It took until the 80th minute for the ref to book him for dissent. He was doing it the entire game. But
come on,
the ref was Paul Marsden.
Come on, Chris, tell Dave that he's wrong and tell him that it happens everywhere.
Yeah, it does. This is the point.
It does happen everywhere. That's what I'm trying to say. It happens at all levels.
You're acting as if it only ever happened at Elland Road, and he's clearly stating that it wasn't at Elland Road.
Wrong.
Yeah, go on, Christopher. Get into
it. It happens, though.
There's been dark arts in football all the time, though. It's happened since football began. You know, it's just one of them things. It's frustrating when you're losing because you see it more. If you're winning, obviously opposition are like, yeah, let's get this throw taken quickly, and it's you that's like, is this right back going to take it? Oh, no, it's a midfielder. Oh, no, give it back. It happens. Like, Sam Johnson's the most laid-back goalkeeper in the world, and I go absolutely spare with referees when they book him, because I'm like, I literally shout from the stands, he moves at that pace all the time. He is just laid back. You know what I mean? He'll take a goal kick at like turtles, like snail's pace, and we're 1-0 down. That's just how he is. When it happens and we're 1-0 up and he's getting booked, I'm like, fucking keep your cards at home for him, because he does it all the time. That is how he plays the game.
We have it at City as well, where you probably like I feel, because we're such a big ground compared to all the other teams in that division, we'll get refs that will come up that probably haven't refed in a stadium anywhere near like that before, in front of anywhere near that amount of fans before. They'll come up from the conference, possibly it might even be the first game in the Football League, and I just think sometimes they're determined to prove that they're not influenced by the crowd. I'm sure they are, and they're determined to say, I'm in charge of this game, the fans aren't refereeing this game.
Officiating will be really interesting this season in particular for League One and below, because they've changed the basically they've kind of widened the gap. So basically the same pool of referees will now be allocated games from League One or League Two or the National League. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that actually affects whether it affects it at all, and if so, how. Because you're going with referees that beforehand would have refed at the National League and then gradually worked the way up. And actually now the pool has been widened. So 1 week the same referee will referee a League One match between Huddersfield and Peterborough. The next week it could be at Wealdstone versus Halifax. It's going to be really interesting to see if there's any impact on that whatsoever.
One thing that I noticed in the Peterborough game, is that in the first half, the referee gave more free kicks and fouls to Peterborough, and then levelled it up in the second half.
You see that happen from time to time, don't you?
Yeah, it was well weird. Like I said to my dad, like, is it just me or is it a coincidence that we've now had the same amount of free kicks as Peterborough in the first half to the second half?
I'm sure they do that, Steve. I really am sure they do that. I'm not sure whether that's a good thing that Chris has just said there about it. So, do the Championship then have their own pool of referees?
I would assume so.
With a Prem,
like the Premier League.
Yeah, with one or two that all kind of do maybe bottom end.
So like Kevin Friend used to referee lower Prem games, but then a lot of Championship games.
Yeah.
I can't wait now for the West Riding FA to get in touch with all those guys and going, we invite you down for a full day's session to be a referee and see how hard it's going to be. Because I tell you
Gary Neville,
that content is going to go viral, guys.
I would take that invitation, actually, because it's always really intriguing me about refereeing. I just don't have the fitness for it. I know that.
I named the referee on Saturday.
I'm not doing a bleep test. You can stick that bleep test.
I'll love to be when they get to the linesman part and it's seen across the line, and I'll just go, well, that's just not possible for me, unfortunately. But I know that I've got the correct decision.
The referee on Saturday was, if you remember back to last season, Luke Summerfield got sent off against Southend for hitting the referee.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
Yeah.
It went viral and stuff. It was him who come back. His name's Paul Marsden, and I don't like witch hunts, but he's a name that crops up a lot when people on National League social medias talk about referees. Paul Marsden's name comes up quite a lot.
Yeah.
He was, I don't want to get too caught up in it, he was his usual self on Saturday, but we won.
Make him
so
what you will.
It's less about him, really.
Yeah.
So, and then when he sent Summerfield off last season, he almost galvanised us into getting an equaliser. So it was.
I'm digressing here a little bit, but I'm at a stage in life where you're getting old now, where you're quite often seeing sons of referees as well. So, like for example, Rochdale had the son of Trevor Kettle refereeing their game at Gloucester United, but obviously John Moss's son Joe is a referee. If anybody remembers, Jarnail Singh back in the mid 2000s from Leagues 1, League 2. I know is it Sonny Singh-Gill, his son that's refereeing. It's just one of those things where you're getting old when you're starting to see not just sons of players, but sons of referees as well.
Those of us that saw Ian Ross play have now also seen his grandson play.
Yeah, we're at that stage, Gaz, aren't we, where we can even see grandchildren playing. I mean, the fact that Rooney's got kids that are nearly his age when he broke through at Everton's insane. And one of them signed a deal, hasn't he, with a certain sports brand that's like a, can we say he signed a deal with Puma, basically? That's what
it's fine. Other sports brands are available.
Yeah.
Please wear sports gear responsibly, etc., etc., etc. I mean, let's kind of come back in a little bit. And for Halifax at the weekend, Dave, it's Aldershot Town, I believe.
It is Aldershot, and they were the only team that did the double over us last year. So I don't know. I think Aldershot may have won at the weekend against Woking at home.
No, they drew 3-3 against Forest Green. They were 2-0 up. Forest Green came back from 2-0 down to level it at 3-3 at 3-2. Sorry, to ahead at 3-2, and then Aldershot got a late equaliser. I don't know how to describe Aldershot. I think the major talking point for them is they had a striker. It was like Laurent Tolage,
who's gone to, is it Bristol City? So it's like, how are they going to fare without him? Basically,
that's Stokes. So they had Josh Stokes. He was the one that was at Bristol. He went to Bristol City last January. Came back on loan. The big man was Laurent Tolage, the Swissman, who has gone to. I think he's one of the signings that Port Vale made in League 2.
Right. Sorry, I got mixed up. Yeah,
you're right though. They've lost some key forwards in particular.
Because the City guy, they bought him in January and like loaned him back, didn't they, till the end of the year?
Yeah.
It depends what Aldershot turn up. I mean, they finished one place outside the playoffs last season. They felt slightly hard done by that Gateshead, then couldn't compete in it, and they didn't put Aldershot in. But the league said, like, when you because you register every year. You guys will probably know a bit more about it, being involved behind the scenes. You almost sign a contract at the beginning of the year that says, like, if you don't finish 7th, you don't just get put into the playoffs, and there's certain things you sign, health and safety things, rules, legislations, and whatever. So I know Aldershot felt a little bit hard done by. They didn't get in the playoffs. I don't know a lot about their recruitment, truth be told, because there's a lot of comings and goings in non-league. And other than it being like the fella from the guy that York signed, Ollie Pearce, who got 40-odd goals for Worthing, there's not a lot of non-league signings that really stand out unless the people come in from the Football League. So because they did the double overs last year, I'd like us to, obviously I want us to win every game, but in terms of like a bit of a stat there, I'd like us to put in a good performance. I think we've got 3 home games to start the season. Obviously, we're going to go into the ground later on. Is it still going to be fit? I mean, Barnet, I think, have problems with their pitch, so them playing us at home now benefits us, and it benefited Barnet because we don't get like a home fixture backlog. And if we have, there's a bigger thing coming in New Year, which is obviously the council and the ground, and that's probably going to be a talking point every time I'm on. It's just going to get closer and closer and closer. There doesn't seem to be any movement on that. It just seems to be getting closer and closer with nobody really putting anything concrete in place. It's 3 home games at the beginning of the season works for us. We might be able to get a little bit of momentum. We can get 3 home games in before we have the unpredictability of how's the pitch going to hold up. I think it's Gateshead, isn't it? After, do you know what?
Yeah.
This pre-season, because of the amount I've been working, it's really, really passed me by. Like our fixtures, like I just knew we were opening against Barnet. I think it's Barnet, Aldershot, and then a week tomorrow's Gateshead, who we've not lost to in like 20 odd years now in every competition as well. So they had a 5-1 win on Saturday. Somebody bagged a hat trick.
Yeah.
So if they're ever going to break their like curse against us, on paper again, it's going to be a week tomorrow.
Let's get predictions then for Halifax for this Saturday. Just the one game. Don't look at me like that, Lou. We did predictions for Town last week, I think. So let's get predictions for Town then. Dave, the game against Aldershot on Saturday.
2-1 to Halifax.
Brownie?
Are you at home or away?
I'm going to go 3-0 to Halifax. 3-0 to the Sherman.
Yeah,
Jay?
3 home games in a row, Lou.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Jay is muted, but he said 2-1, I think.
I did 2-1.
Downsy?
What are we predicting? Halifax for Aldershot
versus Aldershot.
Downs has not been listening clearly.
Downs turned into me, haven't they?
Absolutely. Boy, I might as well be in a heated room. Do you know what? Halifax to win 3-0. 3-0.
Gaz?
1-1.
I will go. I'm going to go the same there. 1-1. And then Lou, finally, your prediction for Halifax?
1-0, Sherman.
There we go. That rounds up Halifax Town quite nicely. Let's get on to Lou names every non-league club in the region in about 3.5 minutes. Come on then, Lou. It's been as always, a busy weekend of non-league football. What's caught your eye?
Up the
avenue.
Tell him, Lou.
Come on, boys. This is about 17-team roundup in 40 seconds. So strap in, ladies and gents. You're in for a rough ride.
Can't wait for you to write every prediction round.
We're not doing predictions for everyone.
You know what, Downsy? You're volunteering for that one, mate. So you can have that job.
I can't do that.
By the way, people, we're not going to do them predictions. Funny enough, I'm deciding it's a dictatorship for this one. It's not happening. Starting off, obviously we've got Farsley Celtic got off, so we're winning starting their opening game, which is a really, really good victory at Ruffalo Olympic, who have recruited really well. But 3-2, late winner from Darren Stevenson, which people may know about, obviously former Bradford City player in Chorley, Southport, Stockport, Tranmere, Curzon, Ashton, the list goes on. I'd be another hour and 48 minutes if I carried on. But yeah, he scored the winning goal, and they play Buxton away at the weekend. So good start for Farsley. Very good start. Absolutely right. I'll come on to them in a bit. That's Team 7, mate. Geisley got off to a really good winning start under Bauer and Bosch as well. Watched the highlights and listened to the interviews at the end of the game. Solid 2-0 win against Workington. Again, quite a few debutants making the first appearance for the Lions. But yeah, that was a really solid win. Lafudu wrapping up the victory there in the second half. And then it's a really tricky away trip on Wednesday at Stockton Town, who beat Leek Town 2-0 at the weekend. So going up to the northeast midweek is never going to be easy. But we've said it in previous pods, for some miles that teams have got to do in the Northern Premier League, as well as the likes of Farsley in the National League North. Going into the Northern Premier League East. So yes, Ryan, I will kick off with Emily, if you may wish, sir, as a valued listener. So obviously they beat Grimsby Borough 1-0. Nathan Curtis with a winning goal. They go away again northeast, so there might be a few people bumping up in the service station up there at Newton Aycliffe. Gone to a really good team, Bradford Park Avenue, up by Ave. Me and Jay were there, and it'd be interesting to get Jay's thoughts as well. So beat North Ferriby FC 1-0. Kind of just dissecting that a tiny bit. We've been there, can kind of do it a little bit better. So what was about, I think, 7 or 8 new players in that team. Well, I think pretty much 90% of the team were debutants as well. Against a team who've been together 2-3 years, got promoted just outside of playoffs last year. Craig Ellison, first half, as a goalkeeper who, some people may not know this, is a fun fact of the day, kids, actually helped and coached David De Gea last season, who was the free agent from Man United. Him and the former goalkeeping coach, Dean Baker, were up at Alty quite a few nights during the week, making sure De Gea were fresh and fit. And as we know, De Gea's got his move to Fiorentina. So as long as Craig Ellison does not swap the Horsfall Stadium for Fiorentina, that's what I'm hoping for. And he made some excellent saves in the first half. And we sneaked it 1-0 with a really well-worked move involving Luke Hogg. Ollie Norman put a through pass to Kareem Hassan-Smith, who was arguably man of the match, and he slid into the bottom corner, and we saw out the win 1-0. But Jay was with me. Jay, your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I mean, Craig was excellent first half, made 3 or 4 really, really good saves, like not just ordinary run-of-the-mill goalkeeper saves. There were top saves. Point blank range, a couple of them, weren't they? And yeah, it was excellent. You know, they rode the luck through them moments, but that's what you have a keeper for, to keep you in the game in their moments. And I thought Avenue did great. I thought they built into the game. We kind of looked at each other at the beginning of the second half when Danny made a couple of changes, changed tactically, and he was right. He got it spot on. And that's why he's a football manager, and we're just people talking about it. Because he got it spot on. They wrestled more control of the game. They played a little bit higher up the pitch. They scored a great goal. I thought the goal was fantastically well worked. I've watched it back a couple of times because when you're there, especially when you bang pitch side right down at a low level, you don't see it in the same kind of way. When you watch it back, it's a beautiful move. Kareem gets onto it and he finishes it like a striker, and he's a fullback.
Welcome for that one, Lou.
Yeah, great move for him. And like I said, putting that team together and getting that performance, and then the resilience that they showed later on. They were never really under that much pressure. You know, you were saying to me, Lou, there's going to be a moment that they're going to get one chance, and they didn't. You know, Avenue really defended extremely well and saw it out nicely. You know, showed some character and experience, keeping the ball in the corner, wasting down time legitimately, not through any dodgy methods. You know, just keeping it in the corner, knocking it out for throw-ins off the bodies, and keeping it in good areas. I thought they were great, mate. I thought they were brilliant, and I'm so happy for them. You know, it's the first. I mentioned this to Brownie in our Leeds review the other day. The first time they've won at home in 6 years first time they've won on the opening day of the season for 6 years, and everything that they've kind of gone through and the work that they've put in. I'm delighted that they got off to a winning start. So yeah, buzzing, mate. Absolutely buzzing.
It's ironic as well because I got a message from that person who scored that goal in that winning day, Ben McKenna, that people may recognise in the past. And he was like, that game was the game that I played against Brackley when I pinged one in the top corner. I'm like, yeah, you do it. But also, it's that kind of weird thing with Avenue. And there's a lot of teams around non-league are very similar, and players keep a track of teams that they've played for. And for some reason, Avenue does have that pull for quite a few players where they do track results. Don't know why, because we have been pretty awful in recently, but they always seem to keep an eye out. So tomorrow night, it is a fair trip down to Belper, which could be a really interesting game. Belper struggling with squad depth. We've got a few players out. Harry Draper, their main signing, is unavailable till Friday, so that sees him out. It was league championship winner with Biggleswade down south before making his move up to Sheffield, and then Avenue in the FA Cup action in the prelim round against Stocksbridge. Brighouse, Chris will probably bring you in here. You were there with me at a Barlick game last Wednesday, bowing out in the FA Cup. I don't know what you think of that one, mate.
Yeah, no, it was to be fair, it was a really entertaining game actually. Wasn't it for Brighouse? I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they get on overall. They were 2-0 down at half time, fought it back to 2-2, managed to get through extra time and took it to penalties. But Barlick, to their credit, finished some superb penalties, didn't they? They played really well, did Barlick on the night as well, when Brighouse would have been the favourites overall for that game. But yeah, all in all, I think be really interesting to see how Brighouse get on this season.
Yeah, and obviously, I know you're involved with there a bit on the other side, Dave, aren't you, as well? And Spence Harris has been named coach player as well. That seems to be of bolstered Grant Black's backroom staff, mate.
Yeah, as I know, I don't really know a lot about him, to be honest, but I suppose more hands on deck is always a good thing, especially at the level that we're talking about now, the teams that are competing. Obviously, every non-league team, whether it's has the playing side, I think there's very few non-league teams would say no if you volunteered your time or energy to do anything regarding a non-league club. You know what I mean? So it's good. But I sort of chirped in between both of you when you were talking about Brighouse losing to Barnsley. I think it's been a decade now for Brighouse where they've either gone out at the first hurdle or they've gone out the round after. They've got a really poor record in the FA Cup. Which is a shame. They got by Colne, I think, last season away. Didn't require a replay. I think did they win 3-1 out at that game? But I know, obviously, having been involved for about 4 or 5 years now, it seems to be they can draw teams from their own level or below, and they just don't ever seem to progress. Barnsley are obviously a team from one or two levels below Brighouse.
Yeah,
one.
Yeah, so it's. They've lost to Penistone in the past, who were a league below. So it just seems to be like a little curse at the minute. I understand teams at step 4 level now don't really, they occasionally make the 4th qualifying round, or you have a story like Marine who do get into the FA Cup first round proper in inverted commas. But I understand they're not going to get that far in the FA Cup, but it's poor. It's poor just to go out so early for so long.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. And I think as well, we were saying on Wednesday, and you've echoed a lot about what we said, is that this next round, the prelim round for winners, I think it's about I'm pretty sure it's £1,444, and then incrementally goes up in prize money. So actually, it doesn't sound a lot, but actually, when you start mounting it together, if you've won in a previous round and you've won in this round, you're already up $3,000. And for clubs at this level, it's a significant, isn't it? And unfortunately, they did suffer an opening day defeat at Cleethorpes, who have been tipped as heavy favourites to win the league. But listening to Grant's interview at the end of the game, he was really complimentary of the team. He just said, there's a few changes that he still wants to make, but actually, Cleethorpes were very good on the day, but so were Brighouse to take the chances. So Brighouse have 2 home games coming up. Brid on Wednesday night, and then at home to Ossett in the league, obviously without cup action on Saturday. Moving on to other teams in the same division, Garforth, really strong start against our local neighbours at Liversidge, 3-0, and they make a long trip to Consett on Tuesday before hosting another North East team in the FA Cup on Saturday. But that's a really solid win for Garforth. Called it in pre-season. They've not made a lot of changes, kept a very similar squad. And look like they could be one to watch out for, I think, in the opening few weeks. So obviously, Sedge, notable signing. Probably bring a few people into this because you've all had him at some point. Adam Clayton at Huddersfield, Leeds, Rochdale. I think he played at City as well. So go on, gents. The floor is yours. Adam Clayton, go discuss.
I think for Liversidge, for MPL East, it's a remarkable signing, to be honest. I mean, obviously, I saw him at Rochdale last season, and he was, to be fair, pretty much a regular for the first half of the season, picked up an injury around January, Christmas time, and was a little bit more bit part over the second half of the season. But it's one of those. If you can find him, he's got the passing ability, and the range, and the tactical nous to kind of make up for the fact that he's obviously getting towards the last stage of his career. So I think for Liversidge, it's a cracking sign. But I know that the legs, in particular, Gaz at City was something that was kind of picked up on by City fans, wasn't it?
Yeah, when he first came in, to be fair, Doncaster fans that we got him from Donny said that his legs had gone. What we did, obviously, we kind of moved Richie Smallwood out of the holding role and played Adam Clayton as the holder. And it worked briefly when he first came in, but as the games stacked up, it did become evident that Donny fans were right and his legs had gone. He played in the playoffs at Carlisle that we obviously lost and didn't get up to Wembley, didn't get promoted, and he was really, really shown up in that game. Really, he looked like an old man, but he had the impact when he first came in. So possibly at that level, you could still see him doing a job. And like you said, like at Rochdale, he played the first half of the season. So there's nothing to say that he can't still play lower down the pyramid. But yeah, he started well, and his legs had gone as the time went on.
So yeah, Adam Clayton there, still kicking about in the West Yorkshire region. So Liversidge, next game is against home to Dunstan, really tricky. And Dunstan beat one of our local neighbours again, Ponty, at 1-0 at the weekend. And I'll come on to Ponty in a little bit. So Ossett United drew 1-1 against Ashington. It's not a bad result. Ashington are going to be quite steady, I think, this season. Again, the turnaround at Ossett is still significant. Seen this evening, Ross Duggan's left as a striker, so that'll be interesting to see how they replace him. Obviously, Eddie Church has gone there on Joel Reg from FC United, so he'll probably get some extra minutes there. Ponty, like I mentioned earlier, suffered an opening day defeat. You might want to watch Johnny Williams' interview. Again, people may know Gavin Rothery, quite locally in non-league, got sent off. Can't say he's too complimentary of him in a post-match interview. You do get this in non-league where you get some real quirky interviews. I'd urge people to go and watch it on their YouTube channel. He's not exactly a fan of Gavin Rothery after that. He got sent off. So Ponty, again, quite a tough couple of games coming up, even though they are at home. So home to Heaton Stannington tomorrow night, and then the face Redcar Athletic in the FA Cup. For those people who are not familiar with Redcar Athletic, they are a club massively on the up in the northeast, including the likes of a certain Adam Boyes, who's played in this region before at Guiseley and Bradford Park Avenue. But Redcar have pretty much got the ex-Blythe / Spennymoor team combined together. And they could easily be a dark horse if Ponty don't deal with them, if I'm being honest.
I'd imagine they've got all the boys because of Masks. Demise, was he at Mask, boys?
Yeah.
Redcar will be propped up by the fact that near neighbours Mask I don't know what their situation is, but they had to almost sort of surrender their MPL membership even. They've just totally disappeared, haven't they, nearly?
Yeah, they've reformed now, but obviously since then, mate, you're right. That squad obviously went in different directions. The manager, Graham Lee, again, Gaz will know from his time at Bradford City. He's now manager at Spennymoor. He took a few there with him, and a few have gone to Redcar and various teams. So again, it's a small world, is football. I'm talking about non-league with plenty of teams, but there's so many connections with a lot of clubs in our region. Moving into the NCEL, so Albion Sports lost to Bottisford Town, unfortunately 2-1. They were leading 1-0. Eccleshill against Kevin Ellison's Vauxhall Motors, again, another connection to the West Yorkshire region with Bradford City and a few others as well. They actually got through to the FA Cup prelim with a really good win against them 3-2. Backed it up with a 4-1 win in the league against Taddy, and their next game is in the FA Cup away at Mossley, who I've watched actually this season in Avenue pre-season friendly. They were okay, very direct. Eccleshill might fancy the chances potentially there. Oh, take a breath, keep going. Golka, they're through to the next round as well. They beat Paddingham 1-0. Again, they've, for me, beat one of the title favourites at the weekend, Rossington 4-2. I think it's a really, really impressive win for Golka. Very small squad, but got some really good pros in there, like Nicky Clee, again, that people may know. George Doyle's starting to find a net after starting the season on the bench. They're away again to our local neighbours at Campion on Tuesday. actually face Fackley in the FA Cup on Saturday. Again, connections to the region. Silsden, 3-0 win against Fackley on Friday night in front of 450. They really capitalised on the Friday night games of Silsden. I said this at Avenue and a couple of the teams, they could learn a lot off this kind of initiative. It's really getting the good crowds in, kind of family day, all that kind of stuff that goes with it. But 450, backed up from the 450 that we got the previous Friday against Campion, they've nearly got 1,000 people through the turnstile in 2 games at that level, which is phenomenal. And they're home to Atherton Collieries in the FA Cup. So that's, again, could be quite a scalp for Silsden if they get that one. And then kind of the other headline news in a division below, which people may have noticed in the past day or two, is Wakefield AFC.
Yes.
So they have now moved away from, I call it Bellevue. I'll still call it Bellevue because it's what it's known to me as. Basically where Wakefield trains to play the rugby league games. But they've actually agreed to go back to Ferguson Rovers, again, to use the old name, Post Office Road, for those that are familiar, on a 2-year deal. So they're now moving kind of out of Wakefield into Featherstone.
Yeah, I get it, but for me, it's such a shame. Like, I understand the situation behind it, and I know that there's been issues with the rugby league club necessarily wanting the football club to be there, but it's such a shame given that the last couple of years, Lou, you'd probably say, I don't know if you'll agree with me, but there's been a bit of a resurgence for Wakefield as a club and as a city in terms of coming back to back a football club again. And for me, it's such a shame to kind of get these good crowds. Last season, we're getting 400 or 500 quite often in the bottom tier of the pyramid, and now for them to be having to be moved back to Featherstone is such a blow for me to take it out of the city.
Yeah, I think it's a shame because obviously we've seen the fortunes of Wakefield Trinity Rugby League Club kind of change as well. They've built a magnificent new stand up at Wakefield as well. I mean, I work in that region anyway. And there seems to be quite a lot of positivity, and it's a shame because, Wakefield were kind of tipped to, kind of not by the way through is not the right word, but to kind of climb the divisions. And I think arguably at one point, or still might be, the biggest town or city in England that's not been a pro team, something like that.
Yeah, they're the biggest in the country without a league club or something along those lines.
Yeah. So it's a real shame. Hopefully it works out. It seems to have, obviously they've put the statements out on their social media about going to Featherstone. Listen, being to Featherstone, it's the ground's changed a lot since those that may have been in the past in rugby league days. I think we've actually got 2 old stands that came from Scarborough that are there as well. So it kind of has a bit of a link to football, but I can imagine from the statements have been read, we're going to try and make that stadium into a bit more of a football-friendly kind of environment. So that'll be interesting to see how it goes. And yeah, we wish them all the best. It's a shame they're not staying at that ground, but listen, I think whatever works of the club is best really on that. Then kind of skipping through some of the other fixtures. So Glasshoughton have lost against Swallow Nest. They're away to Horbury in the League Cup with some quite a few fixtures happening tomorrow in that cup. South Leeds got off to their winning start in their division, 4-1 against Harrogate Railway. Horbury keep flying. One to watch, called it right at the beginning in pre-season. Horbury Town, they're flying, as well as Ilkley. So Horbury beat Shelley 3-0 and Ilkley beating Selby Town 3-1. 2 teams in our region are doing really, really well. And then kind of on the other side of that, Nostell as Welfare lost 4-1. Yorkshire Amateurs didn't play their play in the League Cup. And then finally, bit of action in the northwest side, but kind of still based in our region because we're still within our borders, so to speak. Steeton and Route 1 Rovers played in the Marley Derby last Tuesday night. Route 1 came out victors 2-1. And a big shout out as well for Steeton's manager, Roy Mason. So Roy and the team at Steeton, we know the fans of the show, and we've spoken to him before, but Roy Mason had his 600th kind of appearance in inverted commas in the dugout. He is Mr. Steeton. He basically lives and breathes that club. And unfortunately, it didn't go to plan on the day because they did lose 6-1 at Droylsden.
But no easy place to go, though, is it?
No, it's not. It's a personal accolade. It's superb. He would have kind of ditched that accolade and won the game, knowing what Roy and the team are like at Steeton. But the good news is that they are on winning ways because, as we've been on the pod tonight, they've got their first win of the season at Days of Hill 3-2, which is magnificent victory for Steeton because they've struggled. And obviously, reading and watching some of the interviews, they did sound quite downbeat about their fortunes in the first 2 or 3 games. But now they've got off to the winning start, and hopefully that will get them through. And also, Route 1 we're playing tonight against Holker All Boys, and they've not updated anything on yet. I'm just trying to check the score. Oh, Holker actually won 3-1. But I know Holker had the goalkeeper sent off, so that's a blow for Route 1 to not capitalise on that. And I think an outfield player had to go in. But that's rounding up all the non-league action. What we try and do, again, as we always say on our X account, we do repost, comment, tweet, all that stuff, whatever you want to call it, for the cool kids. We do try and share everything non-league in our local area, but there's plenty of action going on tomorrow, Wednesday and Saturday, so keep tuned to our socials and we'll try and keep everyone updated.
There we go. Thank you, Lou. That's why you sit through the first hour and a half of the EFL stuff to bring us a massive roundup week in, week out. It is. It's all that, and the notes you must make before these.
Oh God!
That's why you are the oracle.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Immaculate. Brownie?
Yeah, we're all done, aren't we? We're just about there. What time? What's nice is we did a little schedule, didn't we, earlier today that we were going to try and stick to, and obviously don't matter though. It's been a great show.
As always, it goes out the window.
Biggest viewing figures?
Yes, big thank you to everyone that has tuned in. I think our highest ever live viewing figures on a Monday night show. Over 800 of you have been tuned in tonight, so that is absolutely superb. Yeah, don't forget, if it's been your first time tuning in, we are on all the social media platforms. We're on Facebook, just search for the West Yorkshire Football Show. We are on X as well. You can either search for it or use the tag at W Yorks Football. We're also on TikTok. Is there anything else? Have we missed anything?
Spotify. We're on Spotify.
We are on Spotify, actually, and Spotify is a big one that we would like to try and work on and build up, I think, in future. But yes, we're on Spotify as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And check us out on all those social platforms across. We're trying to. What else? What's left?
YouTube.
Twitch. Are we on Twitch? We need to.
No, we're not on Twitch. We're not on Twitch.
I think we are on Twitch. I don't think we've done much with it, but I think we do have the account for Twitch as well. And YouTube as well is the obvious one where everything gets uploaded to. So if you're watching live and you want to go back and watch the show again or see anything you might have missed if you joined late, it will be on the West Yorkshire Football Show YouTube channel as well.
It's been fab to see all the comments coming tonight. I know we've had really obviously highest viewing figures, but some of these comments have carried on through the night. It normally drops off when I do my grandstand finish of non-league stuff, but it keeps on going, which is great.
Play to Ryan. He's been in from the very start.
Well. Yeah, good effort, Lou. Indeed, mate. Indeed. And Arthur and the whole gang, thank you so much for all your comments.
And Ian as well.
Ian.
Brilliant. Really loved it. Guys, we'll be back for the roundtable next week. Myself and Jason will be doing some Leeds United content this week, won't we? Thursday, yeah.
Wednesday night town as well.
Wednesday night town. That's it. Pumping out the content. I want to thank everybody who's been on the show. Chris Bell, Jason Booker, Dave Foy, Lewis Sale, Steve Downs, and Gareth Walker. Please like the video, subscribe.
Tom, right at the start.
Right at the beginning.
How can I forget Tom Cardiff? Thank you.
That seemed like
so long ago. I mean, it feels like
last year.
Last year, it does feel like last year.
Also, fantasy football. Join the Fantasy Football League. The code is there, 5M6A9P, because that was why Tom Jones in the first place was to talk to us all about the Fantasy Football League as well, with that getting underway at the weekend.
How many have we got so far on that? Have we got?
Oh, you put me on the spot now as I quickly.
I want to see all 841 viewers joining our fantasy.
This one on the schedule, Brownie, to give Chris a tricky question.
I'll be honest, there's room for improvement, lads, on this one. We've currently got 9, which might even give Downsy a chance of winning it. So if you don't want to see Downs win it, then join it. Use the link as well. It is on the Twitter page. And let's see just how many people we can get into the West Yorkshire Football Show Fantasy Football League.
Yeah. Well, catch us next week. It's way past my bedtime. Thank you all for watching. See you again soon. Bye-bye.
Good night.